Welcome to part 2 of What If Kushina Survived on the Night of the Nine Tails Attack Naruto x Hinata x Yugito. Please make sure to like and subscribe as it motivates me to upload more in the future, and as always link to the fanfiction is in the description. Chapter 11. Saturday was bright and clear. It was a beautiful day if a little cold. Naruto looked down at the board and frowned. He reached over and turned over his king, signaling he was conceding. Shikamaru looked at him in surprise. "What's the matter? You usually never concede." Naruto shrugged. "What was the point? You would have beaten me in 6 moves. 5 moves. Want to play again?" Naruto shook his head. Though he knew it was stupid, he began scratching the cast on his left arm. It didn't help with the itch, but he felt almost compelled to do it anyway. "I really hate this thing. Don't be so troublesome, Naruto. You should be glad you survived at all," Shikamaru said. "No one else in our class would have had a chance." "That's right, munch, munch, munch. You're really lucky." Naruto knew what they were saying was the simple truth, but he wasn't in a mood to hear it. He glared at the casts on his arm and right leg. Then for added measure he sent another glare at the crutches propped up on the bench next to him. "I suppose that I am, but I sure don't feel lucky right now." Hinata was standing behind him. She leaned against his back and put her arms around him. Since the hospital, when he'd told her he liked her hugs, she'd taken every opportunity to put her arms around him. She had noticed that whenever she did that, his mood would improve and he would seem to relax a little. "Naruto-kun, I know why you're unhappy. You keep looking at the obstacle course and the trail. I know you want to be working out, but please be just a little patient, the casts come off tomorrow." He turned his head a little so he could smile at her. "You know me way too well, Hinata-chan." He let out a deep sigh. "But even after I get these stupid casts off, I still won't be able to do a full workout. My mom says I have to rehabilitate slowly." His mouth twisted a bit when he spoke that word, as though it had a bad taste to it. "My mom says I won't be back to my regular pace for at least a month." He looked at her with despair. "And I've already missed so much time, not just training but in class too." Shikamaru rolled his eyes. "Naruto, please stop being so troublesome. You only missed 1 week of class time and I'm sure we didn't cover anything important." He shrugged. "Well, I don't think we did. I was asleep through most of it. Actually, I brought Naruto-kun my notes on everything we covered in class, so he hasn't really missed anything." Hinata said. "You've been studying this whole time when you should have been doing nothing." Shikamaru actually sounded disappointed. "Naruto, I really am going to have to give you some lessons on how to slack off." Naruto grinned a bit, feeling his spirits rise just a little. "No thanks, Shika, you do enough of that for both us." He looked about the rose garden. Even if he couldn't do anything, he liked being outside. His friends had all come over in the late morning to keep him company for a while. His mom had made them all cookies and snacks. Shika had brought a travel shogi set, Choji had brought some extra chips, Kiba had brought Akamaru, and Hinata had brought the best thing of all to help him pass the time, herself. They had decided to hang out in the rose garden and enjoy the beauty and sweet scent. At the moment, Kiba and Akamaru were playing around the front of the mansion. His mom had retreated back inside to give them all a little space. "I guess I'm not really too worried about class. I mean, I pretty much already know everything that's being covered. I'm more worried about the training time I'm losing. I feel like I'm wasting time doing nothing." Shikamaru rolled his eyes. "You aren't wasting time, you are recovering from a near-fatal attack by 2 Jonins. Don't mistake not being able to do what you want to as being the same thing as wasting time." Hinata nodded. "I agree. Please take it easy as you recover from your injuries, Naruto-kun. I know how eager you are to get back to your routine, but please take things slow and do not push too hard. You will be back to normal soon enough, Naruto-kun. Do not hurt yourself worse trying to get there too soon." "I know," he said gloomily. They were both right and he knew it. All of a sudden, Kiba came running around the corner of the mansion into the rose garden, Akamaru on his head barking. "She's coming," he shouted out. "Oh no," Choji cried out. Shikamaru quickly closed up his shogi set and got up off the bench. "Well, I'll see you again tomorrow, Naruto." "Hey," Naruto yelled at his supposed friends. "Are you guys going to just abandon me to face her alone?" "Hell yeah." Kiba dashed off. "Yes." Choji waddled after him. "I'm sorry, Naruto. But like my dad says, a smart man knows when to cut and run. We'll be back tomorrow." With that Shikamaru fled. Naruto remained on the bench and watched them run for the woods on the estate. Great, some ninjas they'll make, just abandoning a comrade to his fate. Knowing what was coming, Hinata quickly sat down on the bench beside him where the shogi set had been. She had a determined look on her face. Don't worry Naruto-kun, I won't abandon you no matter what. Thanks Hinata-chan, I knew I could count on you. It didn't take long for her to appear. Rounding the corner came an 8-year-old blonde girl half buried by a huge assortment of flowers. When he'd woken up he'd found his room filled with flowers and about half of them had come from Ino. He had thought it a very sweet gesture. When she had come over with the other students after class to visit him he had thanked her for the flowers and told her he appreciated her thoughtfulness. That had been a terrible, terrible mistake. He'd left the hospital the following morning and come home. And every afternoon Ino had shown up with a large arrangement of flowers for him that she insisted on hand-delivering to him. After which she would want to hang out with him. He couldn't quite bring himself to tell her he wanted her to just stop giving him flowers and leave him alone, so he would put up with her for an hour or two until his mom would come to his rescue. When Ino saw him her eyes lit up and her smile expanded. Hello Naruto-kun, how are you feeling? Fine Ino, thank you again for the flowers, but you know you really don't need to give me any more of them. The casts come off tomorrow. Oh, that's wonderful Naruto-kun. I'm so glad to hear that. She set the flowers down on a bench across from the one he and Hinata were occupying. She then placed his crutches on the ground so she could sit next to him on the bench. Only then did she notice Hinata. Oh hello Hinata-chan, I didn't see you there. You know Hinata-chan, I am sure you will be a great kunoichi, especially when it comes to intelligence gathering. I mean, you have a natural gift for being invisible. You have no presence at all. How do you do that? As she said all that, she took his right arm and wrapped herself around it. Hinata gave Ino a slight frown. Oh, I just think you have trouble seeing me Ino. Naruto-kun has always seen me. Ino's smile seemed to grow sharper. Oh, I know that. He sees you as his friend. Maybe so, but at least I don't have to invent excuses to come and see him outside of class. I'm welcome here anytime I want to come. Naruto sighed as he knew it was going to be like this the entire time Ino was here. Hinata-chan was normally the sweetest person on earth, but for some reason when Ino came around she seemed to develop some claws. It had surprised him the first couple times Hinata had argued with Ino around him. It was weird because listening to them talk it sounded like two girls fighting for a boy they both wanted to date. He knew that was what Ino wanted, but of course Hinata didn't feel that way. After about 2 hours his mother mercifully put in an appearance to let Ino know he needed to get some rest. Mom walked Ino out and returned. Mom, why did you wait so long to come and rescue me? Naruto whined. Kushina shook her head. Because son, if you don't suffer you won't learn anything. I told you not to give any of your fangirls any special compliments or attention. That only encourages them. But mom, I didn't do it on purpose. I was just thanking her, I was just trying to be nice. Yes, and this is the result. She let out a sigh. I've informed her not to bring any more flowers, so you should be safe now. And I've gotten some good news. Your godmother should be arriving sometime today. XXXXXXXXXXX. Naruto. That was all the warning he got before he was swept up and pressed face forward into Tsunade's bosom. Had he been several years older he might have enjoyed the experience. As it was, he was fighting for breath as his godmother threatened to smother him. Oh Naruto-kun, as soon as I got your mother's message I got back here as fast as I possibly could. She pulled his face up so she could start giving him kisses. Naruto-kun, I am so glad you are all right. Lady Tsunade and I were both grief-stricken at the thought we might lose you. Shizune began giving him some kisses of her own. Thanks godmother, thanks Aunt Shizune, but really I'm fine. Well, except for my hand. Tsunade put him back down and took a look at the swatch of bandages that enveloped his left hand. She had the most serious look on her face that Naruto had ever seen there. All right Naruto, I am going to do a full check-up on you, not just your hand. About a half hour later Naruto was in his room while Kushina, Tsunade, and Shizune were in the study. How bad is it? Kushina asked worriedly. Tsunade frowned. Well, it's not good. Every bone in his hand was fractured and there was a lot of tendon damage as well. Tsunade looked murderous. If the bastard who did this to him were still alive I'd break every bone in his body and see how he enjoyed it. Can you fix it? Tsunade slowly nodded. I believe I can. But it's going to take at least 10 separate operations and we'll need to give the tissue time to heal after each one. She sighed. It'll probably take about 2 months to complete the series of operations and fully restore his hand. But once you're done he'll have full use of it again. Kushina asked. Tsunade nodded. Yes, including being able to make hand signs. She looked rather embarrassed and troubled. I'm afraid I won't be able to stay in Konoha during that entire time. I promise I'll come back each day he's scheduled to be operated on. Kushina sent her old friend a sharp look. What do you mean you won't be able to stay? If you're going to start telling me how you don't like it here or how it brings back bad memories, I don't want to hear it. Your godson needs you right now and not just for the surgeries. There is no one I trust more to help him with his recovery. I want you here in Konoha the full time. You can stay right here in the mansion. It's not that, there are certain difficulties involved with me staying in one place for an extended amount of time. Kushina lifted an eyebrow and crossed her arms over her chest. What difficulties exactly? It's complicated, Tsunade said. Then explain slowly and use small words. Kushina said without humor. Shizune stepped in. The lady Tsunade is deep in debt and wishes to avoid her creditors. Shizune. Well, you are Lady Tsunade. Kushina sighed. How much? Don't you dare answer that. Tsunade barked. A little over 7 million ryu total. Shizune replied easily. Kushina's jaw dropped. 7 million. She stared at her friend in disbelief. What is wrong with you, Tsunade? How could you possibly get that deep in debt? Tsunade looked a small child that had just been caught with her hand in the cookie jar. Bad luck. Kushina just stared at her. Shizune, do you have a list of her creditors and the amounts owed to each of them? I do. Shizune nodded eagerly. Kushina, I don't want your help. I refuse to take a handout from a friend. That's good because I'm not offering you one. What? Shizune said. But I thought you'd want to help Lady Tsunade with her difficulties. Kushina nodded. Oh, I do, but I'm not going to just hand over a small fortune so that she can go out and just do it again. She gave Tsunade a sharp look. As I was trying to explain to Naruto earlier today, if you don't suffer for your mistakes you don't learn anything. Despite being a powerful Sannin, Tsunade felt a bit nervous. What do you have in mind? You say you're having difficulties because of this money you owe. Fine, then I'll pay off the 7 million ryu you owe. I'll just take it out of your salary. Salary? Tsunade asked. What are you talking about? Kushina offered a very chill smile. I'm hiring you as the Namikaze clan's private physician for the next 4 years. Until Naruto graduates the academy, I expect you to live here and be on call for any medical emergency. And while you're here you can also teach me and my son some medical jutsus and do some babysitting. What? Tsunade demanded. You expect me to live here and babysit for you? For the amount of money I'm giving you, you should be glad I don't expect you to sit in my kitchen and clean fish all day. 7 million ryu is not pocket change. If you owe that much you really are in serious trouble. Is there anyone else who would give it to you? A thought occurred to Kushina. Or will you just sell the Shodai's necklace? Tsunade's hands immediately clasped the necklace to her. Never. Kushina crossed her arms over her chest again. Then how will you pay for your debt? Tsunade opened her mouth but no sound came out. Shizune stepped forward. Lady Tsunade, is Kushina's offer really so bad? We get to finally stop running about all the time and get settled for a while. We also get to live in a mansion while working for one of Konoha's most powerful clans. And you get to spend more time with your godson. Aren't you always complaining you never get to see him enough? If you think about it, Kushina's offer sounds like a wonderful opportunity. Tsunade gave her young protege a sour look. You know how I feel about this damn village. Kushina sighed. I know you lost people you loved and that the village reminds you of that. For me, this house and the rose garden are filled to overflowing with memories of Minato. But it is also the home I share with my son. Seeing him every day means more to me than any memory could. I know he would like seeing you more and so would I. Isn't that enough to balance out the memories of the ones you lost? Tsunade looked at her friend solemnly. Normally she would argue that the other person didn't understand. But Kushina had lost not only the man she loved but her whole family except for Naruto. She lost more than I did, and she never ran away. Maybe it's time to try and face things. Tsunade let out a slow sigh. All right, Guess your offer is a fair one considering what it's going to cost you. And I would like to see more of you and Naruto. She slowly nodded. I guess I'll be the family doctor for a while. XXXXXXXXXX. Try and make a fist. Tsunade told him. Grimacing, Naruto tried, but only his thumb and pinky responded. The 3 inner fingers remained stiff and barely twitched. That's as much as I can do. Tsunade nodded. That's all right, Naruto. This is just the first surgery. I promise you by the time I'm done your hand will be as good as new. She grinned at him. You'll definitely be able to make hand signs. Naruto nodded. I know, godmother. And even if I couldn't, it wouldn't matter. She lifted a blonde eyebrow. Oh, if I couldn't use my left hand to make hand signs, then I'd figure out a way to make one-handed signs, or I'd just become a shinobi who didn't use jutsus. She grinned at him. So far as I know, there had never been a shinobi who couldn't use jutsus. He looked at her seriously. Then I'd be the first. My dream is to be Hokage, and I won't let anything stop me from reaching my dream. She looked at her godson sadly. She'd known him since the moment she pulled him into this world and of course knew what his dream was. But whenever he said those words, she couldn't help but feel an ache in her heart. Naruto, have you ever thought that being Hokage is not all fun and games? Naruto looked at her in surprise. Godmother, I've never thought that being Hokage was going to be fun or easy. My mother told me all about what it was like, and I've talked to the Sandaime about it sometimes too. I know it is very hard and demands huge sacrifices, including your life sometimes. Then why? She hadn't meant for him to hear that ache in her voice. Why do you want something that won't bring you joy and may require your life? Because I love this village and the people in it. The way he said it, he seemed to think it was the most obvious thing in the world. I want to protect them and do everything in my power to keep them safe. Even the ones who hate you? She asked quietly. He nodded. Even them. I hope that someday I can win them over and have them finally see me for who I am. But even if I can't, even if some people will always hate me, I still want to protect them. Because they are still part of this village, and it is the Hokage's duty to protect the village. He is just like his father. It was so obvious to her. She had known Minato since he'd become Jiraiya's student. He'd had the exact same earnestness and passion that she saw in Naruto. There was a knock on the operating room door. Lady Tsunade, the Hokage is here to see you. Shizune spoke excitedly. She, the Hokage, and Kushina entered the operating room. How did it go? Kushina asked as she went to her son's side. It went about as well as I expected. Tsunade answered. Can I use my hand to spar with? Naruto asked. No. Tsunade and Kushina said in a chorus. Tsunade expanded on the answer. Not only are you not allowed to spar for the next 2 months, no using that hand for any training period. No push-ups, no pull-ups, no monkey bars, nothing that will put any stress on the bones and tendons. Understand? But can't I at least? No. Both women again answered in unison. Naruto sat back and admitted defeat. It is very good to see you again, Tsunade. Sarutobi said. I am also pleased to hear that this time you'll be staying in the village. Tsunade frowned. She knew her sensei well enough to guess where he was going. It's not permanent. I still don't care much for Konoha. But I will be here at least until my godson graduates the academy. I have to work off a debt. I see. Well, in that case, is there any chance you might be willing to teach some of our young medic nins? They would certainly benefit from your instruction. That was very well said. She certainly couldn't deny the truth of that, and she had been the one who had originally pushed for the creation of a corps of medic nins in the first place. Helping the next generation of medic nins save lives was actually something that appealed to her. She considered it. Well, old man, I don't know. First off, I already have a job, so you'd have to ask my employer here if it would be alright. Kushina grinned. I have no objection if you want to teach on your off hours. Just so long as you're still available for babysitting duties. If I do agree to teach some people, I decide the curriculum and who I teach. I would have to have final say in all matters concerning my instruction, old man. Sarutobi nodded. Of course. Will you do so then? She frowned. She'd expected him to set up at least a few conditions. Part of her wanted to say no just on general principle. But then she thought of all the young ninjas out there whose lives might be saved if she did this. That settled the question. All right. Excellent. He smiled at her. I'll leave you to make arrangements with the hospital staff and inform them to give you whatever you ask for. I have work to do now, but I really am very happy to know you'll be staying with us for a while." With that he left the operating room. Shizune noticed the look on Tsunade's face. "Lady Tsunade, aren't you pleased with the chance to teach others what you know?" "Of course Shizune, if I weren't I'd have turned the old man down." "Then why do you look unhappy?" Shizune asked. She sighed. "Because I know that old man, and I am sure he is up to something." Chapter 12. Though it didn't happen fast enough to suit him, Naruto's hand and overall health eventually recovered fully. He returned to class after missing only 1 week. Though he pleaded to be allowed to fight one-handed, he was barred from sparring until his hand was completely healed. During this brief interval, Sasuke enjoyed a temporary return to prominence as he dominated the sparring matches and ascended to the number 1 ranking. When Naruto's hand was healed and he was cleared to spar again, order was restored. Sasuke and Sakura were an official couple and she seemed to resent Naruto's eclipsing her Sasuke-kun more than he did. Sasuke no longer seemed to be looking for ways to confront Naruto. But even if Sasuke was a bit easier to deal with, Naruto didn't trust him. He would never trust any Uchiha. The fact that Sakura had finally gotten the boy she wanted infuriated Ino and drove her to pursue Naruto even harder. There were no more survival exercises held outside the walls. Tsunade began giving lessons to a small group of medic nins she had handpicked. She did, however, still have time to babysit. XXXXXXXXXX. She leaned over the young boy and glared at him. "You really think you have a chance against me?" She did her very best to seem menacing. Naruto faced her with a calm facade, his blue eyes serene. "You don't scare me." Shizune sighed. "If Kushina finds out about this, she won't be happy." And sure enough. "Hey everyone," the council meeting actually ended early for once and she came to a halt just a couple steps into the dining room. What she saw shocked her. "Tsunade, what are you doing with my son?" "Nothing. I'm just playing with him like a good godmother and babysitter should," Tsunade declared with an affronted tone. Kushina frowned and crossed her arms over her chest. "You are playing cards with him?" Tsunade nodded. "Yes, but I am playing with him." Kushina glared at her. "I do not want my son gambling." "Gambling? Do you see any money?" In front of her was a small pile of candy. In front of Naruto was a slightly larger pile. Kushina continued to glare. Tsunade sighed and shoved all her candy into the space between her and Naruto. "Oh, okay. Naruto, let's make this the last hand. I'm all in." Naruto shrugged. "Oh, okay, godmother." He pushed his candy into the middle as well. Tsunade chuckled and shook her head. "Naruto, never play a hand just because the other person expects you to. You actually played pretty well tonight, but you lost everything on the very last hand." She put her cards down with a flourish. "Full house, jacks over 9s. Naruto put his cards down. 4 7s. "What?" She gawked at him. "But you didn't draw any cards." He again shrugged. "I got them at the start." All 3 women stared at him. The odds of drawing 4 of a kind were about the same as winning the lottery. "What?" He began picking through his winnings for certain pieces of candy. Shizune giggled. "Lady Tsunade, you just lost to a 9-year-old who has never played cards before. Now I can understand how you managed to run up over 7 million in gambling debts," Kushina said flatly. Tsunade ignored them and focused on the really important thing. "What amazing luck." She sounded impressed. "He really has a gift." "Wonderful," Kushina said. Naruto went up to his mother holding about a dozen pieces of candy. "Here, Mom." She smiled at her son. "Thank you, honey, but I really don't want you." "Oh. Are these double mint fudge?" Naruto nodded. "They sure are." She took his offerings and quickly popped one into her mouth. She leaned down and kissed her son's cheek. "You are such a good boy." She smiled and shook her head. "All right, Naruto-kun, collect your winnings and off to bed." Her son happily nodded and was soon gone. Kushina noticed a faraway look in Tsunade's eyes. "You know, Kushina, there's a casino in Tulumet without a minimum gambling age. With his luck and my knowledge. Good night, Tsunade." XXXXXXXXXXX. The first year ended with Naruto, Sasuke, and Hinata holding the top 3 spots. The summer passed peacefully enough. It was the first summer where Naruto had friends other than Hinata to play with. The security measures around him had not loosened. He occasionally visited his friends on special occasions such as Choji's birthday. However, it was much easier for his friends to come and visit him. During that summer his friends would come over regularly to play. Though Naruto did have a different definition of play. XXXXXXXXXXX. This is team leader to dog boy. What is your status? This is dog boy, target is in sight. This is lazy boy. It's a drag but I have the target about 15 feet away. Plump boy, what's your status? Plump boy, please respond. Plump boy. Choji. Put the chips down and answer. Munch, munch, plump boy here. Target is in sight. Pretty girl, what is your status? This is pretty girl. Target is in sight. Ready on your order, team leader. All right, team Naruto, on my mark, go. 4 ninjas sort of leapt from the bushes. An orange and black frog about the size of a small dog leapt 20 feet in the air. Ha, you'll never take me alive. As Naruto watched from a nearby tree, Kiba, Choji, and Shikamaru crashed into each other and wound up in a scrum on the ground. Hinata and Akamaru managed to avoid the pile-up. Looking at all the boys tangled up with one another, Hinata pressed the send button on her radio communicator. Naruto-kun. He sighed. Yes, Hinata-chan. I think we've lost the target. Man, this is troublesome. Can we watch clouds now? He shut his eyes and slowly shook his head. All right, team Naruto, I'm aborting the mission. Let's go watch clouds instead. Can you get your mom to make us some of her cookies? Sure, Choji. Hey Naruto, do you have any milk for Akamaru? Sure. Gamakichi landed on the tree branch next to him. They didn't catch me, so I get 2 bags of chips, right? Sure. I really need to work on my leadership skills. XXXXXXXXXXX. The second year had begun with a small difference. Kurenai had been reassigned. Hiyashi decided that his daughter's protection could be entrusted to a member of the cadet branch of the Hyuga who was a third-year student. Naruto had known Neji as long as he had Hinata. But he and Neji had never become friends. Despite many stays at the Hyuga mansion and many painful efforts, he had never managed to break through the boy's formal and rigid exterior. He had also slowly come to realize Neji's method of talking down to Hinata with insults camouflaged as politeness. In addition, he and Neji had contradictory philosophies. XXXXXXXXXXX. I must respectfully disagree with you, Naruto-san. Neji said in that calm, superior tone of his. If you do become Hokage, it is because you were destined to. Destined. You make it sound like being Hokage is reserved for me. Believe me, it's not. I sweat and push myself to the limit so I can prove myself worthy of being Hokage. When I become Hokage, it will be because I earned it. Neji gave him that smug smirk that always got underneath Naruto's skin. I am afraid you misunderstand me, Naruto-san. I am not suggesting that becoming Hokage is easy or does not demand sacrifice. What I am saying is that your birth has pre-selected you to be Hokage, if you do in fact become Hokage. Think for a moment how many ninja there are from all the villages, and how very few will ever even be considered for the position of Kage. Thus those who become Kages of their villages were all born with that destiny. Consider your own birth. You were born the heir of one of Konoha's most powerful and respected clans. Even more importantly, you are the son of a Hokage. Clearly, your birth has pre-selected you for greatness. If you do become Hokage one day, it will not be because of your exceptional effort or work habits. Tell me, Naruto-san, do you believe if you had been born the son of a mechanic or a carpenter that you could ever become Hokage no matter how hard you worked? If my will was strong enough and I was ready to commit to it no matter what, then yes, I could. If you believe in your dream with your whole heart and give everything over to it, you can do anything. Naruto answered fervently. Neji cracked a self-satisfied laugh. Easy enough for you to say. Naruto halted and everyone else did as well. He turned to fully face Neji. What the hell does that mean? Neji faced him with complete confidence. It means it is very easy to believe anything is possible when you have been gifted with one of the rare births that truly allows that. If you stand up and proclaim you will be Hokage one day, no one laughs at your ambition because they all recognize that for you it is possible. And why? Because of how hard you work or how strong your will is? No, it is the simple fact that your last name is Namikaze. You are Namikaze Naruto, son of a Hokage, for you anything truly is possible. But if you were Machuki Naruto, son of a plumber, and you made the same proclamation, everyone would laugh at you. Naruto smiled. You know what? I'm sure they would. But even if the whole world laughed, it doesn't mean I couldn't still do it. Neji just shook his head. Such unbelievable arrogance. Only someone born at the very top could ever truly believe that. Only someone who has never struggled could think that way. Never struggled. People have been trying to kill me my entire life. Neji grimaced. You should consider that is simply the price tag for all that you have been given thanks to your birth. The powerful are always hated. He seemed to grimace. A bit. Always. The two boys locked gazes. Kushina coughed. Shall we get going? Neji nodded. Of course Kushina-san. Sure mom. Neji bowed slightly. I apologize if my harsh truths wound your ideals. Naruto just frowned at him. Neji had a real gift for making apologies sound like insults. Naruto decided not to bother responding. Their argument was pointless as neither of them would ever be able to change the other's mind. XXXXXXXXXXX. Second-year students began learning the basics of chakra control. For students like Naruto, Sasuke, and Hinata much of their time was a waste as they were forced to the same pace as their classmates. Each Saturday Naruto and Hinata would go through the same murderous workout beside his mom. Throughout the second year at the academy Hinata built up her endurance and was able to last for 7 hours of the workout. Naruto had invited his other friends to join them. Shikamaru and Choji had paled upon hearing the description. Kiba joined in sometimes. He liked the challenge of trying to keep up the pace Naruto set. By the end of the year he was able to last about 4 hours. But most Saturdays it was just him and Hinata. XXXXXXXXXXX. Want to sit in the rose garden for a little bit before you go home Hinata-chan? Sure Naruto-kun. The two of them sat down on one of the wooden benches. Kushina had gone inside and so the two of them had a little privacy. The sunset is really beautiful. Naruto remarked. The whole sky is just red and orange. Hinata looked westward and nodded appreciatively. It is very beautiful. She let out a content sigh. She loved the rose garden on the Namikaze estates. Though soon it would be winter and the roses would all be gone until the spring. It was already getting a bit cool. She rubbed her arms. Seeing that Naruto reached out and pulled her onto his lap. Eek. She stared at him as he wrapped his arms around hers. Naruto-kun, what are you doing? He grinned and pulled her close to him. I saw you were cold and I wanted to help you keep warm. Is something wrong Hinata-chan? No. Sitting on his lap with his arms wrapped around her they were almost nose to nose. Our faces are so close. If I just leaned in and kissed his lips what would he say? Hinata-chan, are you feeling all right? Your face is turning red. He put a hand on her forehead and had a look of concern. I'm fine Naruto-kun. I'm just a little tired. She settled for just putting her head down on his shoulder. Say Hinata-chan, why did you decide to grow your hair out? Oh well, most of the other girls have long hair and I just thought I would try it too. Do you like it? Yeah, I think it makes you look even prettier than usual. She knew her face had darkened again. She could never in her life hear that enough from him. Thank you Naruto-kun. They didn't say much more after that. They just sat there together on the bench keeping each other warm as they watched the sun leave the sky. From a second-story window Kushina watched them. Protective surveillance she would call it, or spying as Naruto would call it. Watching the kids she smiled fondly. XXXXXXXXXX. The second year ended with Naruto maintaining his dominance of the class. Sasuke remained second, and Hinata was third. During the school year there was an assassination attempt on Naruto. It failed, and the Chunin ended up dead with Naruto's sword through his heart. It was yet another harsh reminder, not that he needed one, that there were always enemies about. He and Sasuke developed a very frosty relationship. Sasuke did not look for confrontations with him anymore, but there were times when Naruto could feel his eyes burrowing into his back. Naruto honestly didn't know what to make of Sasuke. He was a rival and an Uchiha, so there would be no friendship. But he couldn't gauge how strong the passions were in the dark-haired boy. Most of the time Sasuke would seem too quiet and brooding, except when Sakura was with him. Then he would normally lighten up. The relationship between Sasuke and Sakura was best summed up by the fact that some of the other girls had taken to calling her puppy. During the summer, along with his workouts, he and Hinata began to receive training in medical jutsus from Tsunade alongside his mom. These lessons from Tsunade were absolutely excruciating for Naruto. As Tsunade was wont to say, medical jutsus were based on just one thing, chakra control. She would point out that for healing using too much chakra was actually worse than using too little. Unlike most of his other jutsus where overloading chakra only made them even more effective. He also felt slightly embarrassed by the fact that his mom was fairly good at picking things up and Hinata actually seemed to have a talent for it. Meanwhile he struggled to do even the most basic of jutsus. Fortunately he had an escape, sometimes. XXXXXXXXXX. Listen kid, how would you like to learn one of your father's original jutsus? Naruto's ears immediately perked up. Is it an offensive jutsu? Jiraiya chuckled. Oh, you could say that. It's an 11 wind-based attack jutsu that took your father 3 years to develop. He held out his palm and began to swirl chakra around it. This is called Rasengan. Naruto's eyes expanded as the chakra seemed to swirl faster and faster while staying contained in a small sphere in his palm. Wow, how powerful is it? Jiraiya smiled. Kid, see that tree? At Naruto's nod, Jiraiya dashed over to it and drove his right palm into the middle of the thick trunk. As Naruto watched, the Rasengan bored through it with ease. When Jiraiya pulled his hand back, there was a smooth about a foot wide going through the tree. Naruto could easily imagine what that kind of force could do to a person. That was so cool. Pervy granddad, you have to teach me this. Jiraiya frowned at him. I'll teach you on one condition, Naruto. Anything. Stop calling me pervy granddad. I am the great and all-knowing Toad Sage. Grinning, Naruto gave the old man a bow. Jiraiya-san, will you please teach me this jutsu? Smiling, Jiraiya nodded. Finally, a little respect. You can knock off the san nonsense, though I wouldn't mind you calling me sensei like your father did. Okay. Naruto, now to begin with. Naruto. They both stopped to see an angry blonde storming towards them. Naruto, what are you doing out here with him? Come on, it's time for instruction. Kushina and Hinata are both waiting. Actually godmother, if it's okay with you, I think I'd like to stay here and work with Jiraiya-sensei. She stiffened as if she'd just been slapped. Jiraiya-sensei. Since when do you call him that? And why don't you call me sensei? Jiraiya smiled smugly. You can't blame the kid, Tsunade. He wants to learn something useful. A vein immediately began throbbing in her forehead. Listen, you old pervert, nothing is more useful than medical jutsus. But godmother, Naruto whined. I can't work any of them. Whenever I try, you spend all your time telling me I have to use less chakra. Can't I just work here learning attack jutsus while you teach my mom and Hinata? He asked pleadingly. Tsunade gave him as warm a smile as she could manage while thinking about throttling Jiraiya. Now Naruto-kun, I'm sure you'll get the hang of this, you just need more practice, that's all. She then looked at her former teammate. And you, stop hounding me. I don't appreciate you stalking me like this, you know. Jiraiya looked affronted. What is that supposed to mean? Oh, cut the crap. Ever since I came back here, you've suddenly been in Konoha an awful lot. And why do you stay here when you're in the village anyway? He waved an arm at the 3-story mansion. What? There aren't any spare rooms. Are you the only one who gets to stay here? I don't own any property in this village anymore. How many houses do you own? 5, 6. He grinned at her and shrugged. What can I say, Tsunade? I feel at home here and Kushina did invite me. She only did that because you were whining like a spoiled child that I was staying here. And she never thought you'd actually move in. He smiled. My Tsunade, but I do seem to bring out the passion in you. You sure do, and the passion is called hate. She grabbed Naruto by the right arm and began to drag him toward the house. Come on Naruto, let's go. Hey, he's staying here with me. Jiraiya grabbed Naruto by the other arm and yanked him back. No, he's coming with me. She pulled him hard. He's staying right here. He pulled back hard. Let go. She grabbed on with both hands and began to pull. No, you let go. Jiraiya grabbed on with both hands as well and began to strain. He's mine. No, mine. Mine. Stop. You're tearing my arms out. Naruto cried out. Mercifully they both let go. Jiraiya stood in front of her and tried to look imposing. Look flat-chested, Tsunade, the boy obviously wants me to teach him. So what are you going to do about it? That was so the wrong question to ask. Come on Naruto, and from now on when I'm teaching you I expect you to call me Tsunade-sensei. As she led him back inside, he was far too frightened of what he'd just seen to argue with her. Yes, Tsunade-sensei. Shouldn't you at least check his vitals? You hit him pretty hard. He's fine, she assured him. Naruto looked back at the prone figure. Tsunade-sensei, you really hit him pretty hard. I think he might be dead. Tsunade sighed. Trust me Naruto, I'm just not that lucky. XXXXXXXXXXX. The most memorable thing to happen in Naruto's third year took place during a recess early in September. XXXXXXXXXXX. The boy was fighting to hold back his tears. Just like always, he was all alone. Everyone told him to quit, everyone told him he was wasting his time. Not just the other kids but his teachers and even his parents told him he should face up to reality and give up. But he couldn't. It was what he had always dreamed of and it meant everything to him. But lately he'd begun to wonder if he was just fooling himself. No one believed in him. Not one single person. He was completely alone. And here he was again being taunted and attacked by 5 other boys. They yelled at him to quit, to give up. They were going to beat him and show him he wasn't a real ninja. He fought back the tears and readied himself for one more fight, one more beating. But he began to wonder how many more of these hopeless stands he had left in him. Why don't you just give up, Lee? We're sick of you and your stupid speeches and your stupid standing there trying to work a jutsu that you never will. You're just a waste. Just quit and stop wasting everyone's time. I won't quit. I'll show all of you that I can be a ninja even if I can't use chakra. You're such an idiot. There's no such thing as a ninja who can't work a jutsu. The other boy taunted. Then I'll be the first. Lee shouted. I don't care what it takes. I'll be a ninja because that is my dream. Hot-blooded idiot. The boy smiled at his friends as they got ready to rush in. Then he felt a pain in the back of his head and everything went black. The entire courtyard watched as Naruto launched himself at the remaining 4 boys, all of whom were 4th-year students. He beat them down in less than 30 seconds. Just that quick. Naruto was standing in the middle of the circle with 5 kids either unconscious or on the grounds crying. Lee stood there gaping at the blonde boy wearing the Hokage cloak. He had no idea what to do. Naruto smiled and held out his hand. Hi, I'm Namikaze Naruto. Pleased to meet you. The words seemed to snap him out of it. Lee immediately bowed to the boy. I am pleased to meet you as well, Naruto-san. I am Rock Lee. Naruto rubbed the back of his head. You all right, Lee? I hope you don't mind me getting involved in your fight. I just can't stand bullies. He looked down at the boys who were still awake. I have no respect for those who use their strength just to torment others. You should use your strength to protect others. No, I do not mind, Naruto-san. In fact, I thank you for your assistance. What sort of game are you playing at, Naruto-san? The cool and disdainful voice made Lee stiffen and brought a frown to Naruto's face. I'm not playing anything. I saw someone who needed help and so I helped him. Neji looked to his classmate and then looked back to Naruto. Do you even know who it is you intervened to help? This boy, Neji refused to even say his name, is a complete and utter failure who by his mere presence wastes the valuable time and resources of our instructors. He is a failure and should quit. Naruto began getting angry. Neji, if you say one more damn word I'm going to knock you on your ass. Lee gasped. Neji was a genius of the Hyuga clan. No one spoke to him like that. Neji stood his ground and carefully eyed Naruto up and down, reading his body language and coming to a conclusion. You are serious? Damn right. He nodded. Why? Neji asked, genuinely curious. Why would you be willing to fight me and risk angering the Hyuga clan for the sake of someone you don't even know? Because he's someone who needed help, that's all I need to know. Neji grinned derisively. And when you are Hokage, Naruto-san, will you spend all your time getting cats out of trees and helping little old ladies cross the street? Naruto shrugged. I guess it depends on how much time I have. Seeing everyone looking, he raised his voice. I don't like seeing people attacked just because they're weaker. That is what cowards and criminals do. Shinobi fight to defend themselves or to serve their village, not to make themselves feel better by beating up those who are weaker. The kids listened and nodded, taking his words to heart. Neji grinned and shook his head. You know, Naruto-san, you really are filled to overflowing with foolish ideals. Only a fool would really believe that the strong shouldn't take advantage of the weak. That is not how the world works. Naruto smiled. Then I guess I'll just have to change how the world works. If it is foolish, Neji, then I would rather stay a fool and hold on to my ideals. Neji smirked and simply walked away, truly amused. Naruto looked at the boy he had just saved. Wow, he has thick eyebrows. Listen Lee, I heard what you said about being a ninja even if you can't use jutsus. Lee's eyes fell to the ground and he prepared to hear again how he should give up. I just wanted to tell you that I agree with you. If it's what you truly want then make it happen. I'm sure you can be a ninja even without using chakra. Lee's head shot up. This was the very first time anyone had given him any encouragement since it had become clear he couldn't work jutsus. Do you really mean that, Naruto-san? Yes I do. I believe that if your will is strong enough and you're willing to work hard you can do anything. If it's your dream to be a ninja then follow your dream and don't let anyone stop you. Lee felt a weight lift up off his heart and suddenly felt real hope that maybe it wasn't impossible. He bowed deeply. Arigato Naruto-san. Hey, just call me Naruto. Listen, do you want to be friends? Friends? Sure. You seem like a really good guy and I would like us to be friends. If you want you can even come work out with me this Saturday. Lee was deeply touched and bowed once more. Naruto-san, I am deeply grateful but I'm not worthy of being friends with the heir of the Namikaze clan. Who says? Naruto asked. Lee didn't know how to answer that. Listen, don't worry about that. If you want to be friends I'd like that. And if you want to train with me we start at 7 in the morning. He turned to leave but before he did so he raised his voice again. And if anyone messes with my friend Lee here they mess with me too. Lee watched him go and decided he would definitely go to the Namikaze estate Saturday. XXXXXXXXXX. In the third year the academy began to concentrate on team building exercises. The instructors tried to drive home the fact that they were expected to be able to work with comrades even if their personalities did not mesh, or even if they disliked each other. This lesson was driven home when Naruto was paired with Sasuke. They did not like each other, they did not trust each other. But they did complete the exercise. During the year Rock Lee became a friend. His mother liked him very much, she just thought he was so damn earnest. Lee adapted to Naruto's training better than anyone ever had. By the end of the year when Lee graduated the academy, despite not being able to make a bushin, he had been able to perform the full 10-hour program. Hinata was up to 8.5 hours and Kiba could last 6. Seeing Lee do so well motivated Kiba even more and he began coming around on most Saturdays. Tsunade refused to give up teaching Naruto medical jutsus and eventually he was able to perform some of the basic ones. But even Tsunade was willing to admit he would never be able to work the most complex ones. Hinata was a natural and Tsunade began thinking of her as an apprentice. She and Naruto were the only academy students she taught. Her class at the hospital was made up of genins and chunins. Jiraiya was also teaching him, though never again at a time when Tsunade was scheduled to. By the end of the year Naruto had mastered the Rasengan. Jiraiya was impressed at how quickly he had picked it up. His father after all had needed 3 years to master it. At the end of his third year at the academy Naruto was clearly mid-jonin level. As the hot summer days wore down and the final school year approached there were changes in the air. Not only for him but for all of Konoha. XXXXXXXXXX. You wanted to talk to me? Tsunade asked. They were on top of the tower and Sarutobi was looking up at the cliff faces. Yes, thank you for coming to meet with me Tsunade. No problem old man. So what's this about? Have you enjoyed your time back in the village Tsunade? She frowned at him. He was definitely up to something. Some of it, she admitted. I will admit I did enjoy teaching again. Some of the younger generation of this village are very surprising. She smiled. And then there's Naruto. He really is an amazing child. He's going to be quite an amazing man and ninja one day. And Hokage? Sarutobi asked quietly. She thought about that for a moment. Yes, it's not what I would ever want for him. But that little kid will be Hokage one day. She smiled fondly. And do you know what else? He really will be the greatest Hokage ever. Sarutobi studied her. You do not agree with his ambition. But would you help him achieve it? She thought about it and slowly nodded. Yes I would. Not only because it is his dream but because it was Dan's and Naoki's as well. Their dream is alive in him now. And so long as my godson truly wants it I would help him any way that I could. Sarutobi nodded slowly. I am very glad to hear that Tsunade. For there is a way you can almost guarantee he becomes Hokage. That got her attention. And how's that? Name him your successor once he is ready. What are you talking about old man? Tsunade was suddenly very nervous. Sarutobi grinned. Just as you say, Tsunade. I really am an old man now. I have been ready for retirement for many years, but I have waited until I had a replacement ready. She began to go pale. Oh no. Don't you dare say it. Tsunade, I ask you to succeed me, and become the 5th Hokage. Chapter 13. They were 4th-year students. At the academy they felt like lords of the earth. It was during the final year at the academy that the instructors finally showed them the mysteries of how to work jutsus. It was during the final year that they began discussing such things as assassination techniques and the disposal of bodies. By this point all the weak-willed and unsure ones were gone. The students who were still there knew they wanted to be ninja. Or at least thought they did. Some would not be able the brutal reality when it finally hit them. Some would not survive that very first brush with real ninja life. But at least the kids thought they were ready to face it. Naruto and Sasuke had already faced that reality and both had come to grips with it in their own way. XXXXXXXXXXX. Sakura looked terribly uncomfortable and nervous. He honestly wondered if she would have the nerve to do it. Sasuke-kun, why do you want me to do this again? He gave her that shy grin he had worked on in the mirror this morning. As it always did, the look made her face darken just a little. With practiced ease he reached out a single hand to stroke her cheek. He could see the breath shudder out of her. She was so ridiculously easy to read. She looked at him with such pathetic longing. He'd found the perfect equilibrium with her. He would give her just enough attention to leave her hungry for more. He always gave her just enough hope to think all her dreams were within reach. In the whole time she had been his girlfriend he had never once kissed her. He had also most definitely never said the L word. He would smile, joke with her, pay her attention when started one of her mindless lectures, he would take her out to nice places to eat, and he would hold her hand or touch her cheek. And that was all it took for him to make her do anything he wanted. So far. But he needed to know just how far he could take it. That's why he had come up with this test. Sakura-chan, he said in a soft and comforting voice. Think of this as proof that you really would do anything for me. She looked hurt. But Sasuke-kun, don't you already know that? He slowly shook his head. Sakura-chan, I'm not talking about meeting me for a date or lending me some of your kunai. Before long we are going to Genin, going on real missions facing real danger. I need to know I can count on you even in the most trying of circumstances. Oh Sasuke-kun, what if we don't end up on the same team together? She seemed on the verge of tears. My heart would break if we couldn't be together. Just what do you know about real heartache? Real tragedy. Like all girls her age she lived on romantic fantasies and drama. He tried very hard not to sigh. Fine, if you need drama I'll give you drama. He took her hands into his and looked deep into her eyes. Sakura-chan, think of this as a test of faith. If you do this you'll prove to me that you really would do anything for me. Don't you think Kami would reward such devotion? Do you really think so, Sasuke-kun? She could feel her heart flutter. He nodded his head and kept eye contact with her. I do. Sakura-chan, if you do this for me I am sure Kami will make sure we are together after we graduate. And if Kami was unwilling he was sure his clan would. Then I'll do it, Sasuke-kun. XXXXXXXXXX. Kushina and the Hyuga branch member who had escorted them departed. Hand in hand, just like always the two of them entered the academy grounds. A bunch of their classmates were outside talking or just hanging out. Kiba and Shikamaru both waved to them. Naruto and Hinata waved back. Does it feel any different to you? Being a senior now? Hinata considered it. Not really, she answered. I mean we have a different home room now but we have the same classmates and teachers. Does it feel different to you, Naruto-kun? He nodded excitedly. This is the last year. In 9 months we graduate and I finally get to start my career as a real ninja. I can start building a reputation and begin the path to being Hokage. Hinata had also thought some about graduation. But she didn't smile. She was somber and serious. Naruto-kun, what happens if we don't end up on the same team together? He gave her hand a comforting squeeze. If it happens, Hinata-chan, we'll just have to make the best of it. It's not like we won't still see each other when we're in the village. I mean even once we start our careers we won't be on missions all the time. Hinata cast her eyes down. Wouldn't you miss me if you didn't see me every day, Naruto-kun? With one hand he gently tipped up her chin so she could see his eyes again and that beautiful smile of his. Of course I would, Hinata-chan. I love getting to be with you all the time. But we are shinobi and we have a duty to our village to carry out the orders and assignments given to us. I'd love to be on a team with you. But if it doesn't happen we'll both have to do our best with whoever we're assigned. I mean, what else can we do? He said reasonably. Fight like hell to be together. She didn't say that, of course. Naruto's answer was the right one. And if Kami willed it, it was what they would both do. Oh, but she would have liked it if he had said there was no chance they would be on separate teams. She would have liked it even more if he had declared he would fight for them to be together. I know you're right, Naruto-kun, I just want to stay by your side. She noticed from the corner of her eye Sakura approaching them to say, hi. Hinata frowned, wondering why Sasuke's girlfriend would give either of them the time of day. Naruto saw her from the corner of his eye and something warned him. He couldn't have explained what it was. But always being in danger had given him sharpened senses and he could spot threats. As Sakura's hand came out from behind her back he instinctively leapt back. Still holding Hinata's hand he pulled her rearward with him. Sakura held what looked like a big water balloon and whipped it at him as fast as she possibly could. She'd been aiming for Naruto's chest but he'd moved too quickly. The balloon struck Hinata instead. It exploded in a shower of pig's blood, drenching Hinata's dark blue shirt and pants. The backsplash got Naruto and the white Hokage cloak was splattered with blood. The instant he landed he glared at the little pink-haired girl. Sakura saw a look in Naruto's eyes that reminded her of an angry wolf. She thought her heart stopped for a second. She opened her mouth to apologize but Naruto seemed to be on her instantly. With one hand he grabbed her by the front of her red dress and yanked her completely up off the ground. She could feel killer intent radiate off the boy and she saw his eyes filled with rage. For just an instant, for just half a second, she really thought he was going to kill her. What the hell was that? Why did you do that? Naruto shook her violently back and forth to give his words some emphasis. She couldn't help it, she began to cry. It was just a joke. She wailed. I didn't mean any harm. He was still holding her up off the ground with one hand. She felt completely and totally at his mercy. Sasuke, please come and help me. Luckily for her, Hinata was at Naruto's side and had her hands gently on his arms. Naruto-kun, it's all right. No harm has been done. Naruto looked at her. No harm. Hinata-chan, you're covered in blood. Naruto was seething. Hinata nodded and spoke calmly. I agree, what Sakura did was not nice. She sent the crying girl a frown and then turned back to Naruto. But she didn't hurt me. Please don't do anything that will get you in trouble or that you will regret later. She was giving him a pleading look that seemed to just drain his anger away. Fine. He put Sakura back down and let go of her. Don't ever do anything like this again, Sakura. I won't. I swear. With that she ran away from him as fast as she could. Naruto reached down to his belt and switched on his radio. Mom, can you come back to the academy please? Is something wrong, dear? He sighed. Nothing serious, Hinata and I just had a nasty prank played on us and we need to go home to change our clothes. All right honey, I'll be there in about a minute. Naruto-kun, we can't go home. Class is about to start, we'll be late if we leave now. He gave her a firm look. Hinata-chan, we are not starting the first day of our senior year looking like casualties from a battle. If we're a little late it won't be the end of the world. As they waited, Kiba, Shikamaru, and Choji came up and asked what had happened. Most of their classmates had seen what happened and were buzzing about it. Ino had seen what had happened and had watched as Sakura ran away to hurry to her boyfriend. Ino didn't fail to notice that Sasuke had watched everything from a comfortable spot leaning against the wall. He had watched the entire event without taking a single step to help his girlfriend. Now that it was over she could see he was hugging Sakura and trying to comfort her. Now that it was over. XXXXXXXXXX. Kushina had watched the confrontation in the schoolyard. It made her sad that someone who she thought of as a nice girl from a good family would do something so hateful. Though she thought balloons filled with blood were still better than kunai and swords. XXXXXXXXXXX. Ino went up to Sakura in the girl's room. They were alone and so she had the chance to talk to her best friend. What was that this morning? Oh, it was just a little joke. Sakura said weakly. And whose idea was this little joke? Sakura looked away from the mirror to face her directly. Mine. Bull. Ino said sharply. Don't cover for that jerk. I know you would never do something like this on your own. It's obvious Sasuke made you do it. Shut up Ino pig. You're just mad because your precious Naruto got a little blood on him. Sakura snapped. No. Ino said flatly. I don't like what you did to Naruto, but it's not like this is the first time he's had blood on his clothes. He'll deal with it. I'm upset because I don't like seeing my best friend getting used. Used? You don't know anything. Sasuke would never use me. He just needed me to prove my love to him. Ino frowned. So it was his idea. Sakura gave her an angry look. Listen Ino pig, if you say anything to anyone I'll call you a liar. Don't worry, that's not my style. I prefer to deal with things on my own. Sakura, can't you see what's going on? Sasuke's using you. Do you think if he really cared about you he would have put you in that situation? Sakura glared at the blonde. You are such a backstabbing lying bitch. What is it? Are you just jealous that the boy I love actually cares for me? Or have you finally given up on Naruto and decided to go after Sasuke? Ino actually felt a slight shiver. No thanks. He's a little too cold for my tastes. Cold? What are you talking about? My Sasuke-kun is the sweetest boy in the whole world. Sure, Ino agreed. When you're right there in front of him. The rest of the time he's usually just brooding. He never smiles, he never laughs, he's just a bottomless pit. I don't know what happened to him, but he's not the same boy that he was. He's changed over the last few years. No, he hasn't. He's still the same sweet boy he always was. He cares about me and he's good to me. Good to you, huh? Ino crossed her arms. You mean like when he has you try and piss off Naruto while he stands back and watches? Is that being good to you? You don't understand. Oh, I understand, all right. Sakura, wake up. Sasuke is using you. If he really did care about you he wouldn't have put you in that situation. Sakura, you need to leave him. Huh, I knew it. Sakura nodded triumphantly. You finally woke up to the fact that Naruto will never want you as long as he has Hinata. You just want me to break up with Sasuke-kun so you can move in and get him for yourself. Well, sorry to disappoint you Ino pig, but that's never going to happen. With that she stormed out of the girls' room. Ino watched her best friend go inside. Sakura. XXXXXXXXXXX. Naruto waited in the hall as the students began to filter out and head home. As usual, Sasuke was the last. Can I have a word with you, Sasuke? He'd asked Hinata to wait for him on the schoolyard. For a moment it was just the two of them. Sasuke looked at him and smirked a bit. He came to stand in front of him calm and relaxed. Sure Naruto, what can I do for you? Naruto frowned. Why did you have Sakura pull such a stupid stunt this morning? I had nothing to do with it. He said unruffled. You'll have to ask her why she did it. Cut the crap. Naruto's voice was low and held just a bit of menace to it. Sakura is an annoying know-it-all, but she's not really mean. She would never come up with anything like trying to cover someone with blood. But I think you might, and it's no secret she does anything you tell her to. Sasuke sighed. You know Naruto, I know you've grown up with danger all around you. It has got you seeing conspiracies everywhere. Anyway, what's the big deal? It was just a prank. It was a mean-spirited and cruel prank. I don't like it when people try and hurt others. Sasuke gave him a slow and considering look. You don't like seeing people hurt? Naruto nodded. That's right. Well, that's certainly strange given what you really are. Naruto suddenly eyed the boy carefully. What do you mean by that? What do you think I really am? There was a light in Sasuke's eyes. A demon, he saw that hit. Sasuke saw a sudden panic in Naruto's eyes. Of a ninja. And a demon of a killer. You have killed at least 8 since you came to the academy. And those are just the ones I know about. Does he know? I only kill when I have to, Sasuke. Of course, but somehow I get the feeling that it comes more naturally for you than anyone else here. Naruto gave him a very cold look. If you really believe that, then you shouldn't try so hard to piss me off. Iruka exited the classroom to find his 2 top students staring each other down in the hallway. Is there something going on, boys? I don't know. Sasuke answered merrily. Are we done here, Naruto, or was something more you need to get off your chest? Naruto shook his head. No, I think I've said what I needed to. Sasuke smiled and left with a friendly wave of his hand. I'll see you tomorrow then. XXXXXXXXXX. Sasuke was walking Sakura home with his arm protectively around her. All her doubts about doing what she did had been assuaged by about 5 minutes of his talking to her. He smiled at her, and it was a rare true smile, for in that moment he found that he liked her more than he ever had. She's completely mine now. I can trust her to do anything I want. I'll definitely need to arrange for us to end up on the same team. He suddenly stopped and squeezed her tight. He whispered in her ear, "I'll never let you go now, Sakura, you'll always be with me at my side." As they started walking again, she took a hold of his arm and rested her head on his shoulder. It had all been worth it, because now her Sasuke-kun really understood how much she loved him. And no matter what Naruto or Ino Pig or anyone else might think, she would always be with Sasuke-kun. Always. Chapter 14. It was October 9th and Naruto was celebrating his 12th birthday. As he waited for the guests to arrive, Naruto ran around the house excitedly, as he always did on his birthdays. Kushina watched him dash about with fondness, but also with a bit of sadness. This would be the last birthday where he would be a child. In a little more than 7 months he would graduate from the academy and earn his Hitite. He would be an adult legally and in the eyes of the village. In some ways he'd been an adult for some time now. In other ways he was still a kid. And in one way it didn't matter how old he would always be her baby. Without warning she grabbed him and pulled him into an embrace. She happily planted some kisses on his face. "Mom, why are you hugging me? Do I need a reason to hug my baby?" "Mom," he whined. "I'm 12 now. I'm not a baby." "Yes you are. You are my baby." She hugged him some more. "Are you too old to be hugged by your poor mother?" He smiled at her happily. "No mom, you can always hug me." "Well thank you son." She laughed and hugged him some more. XXXXXXXXXXX. Kushina looked at the small crowd that had taken over much of the first floor. Given her constant concern for security, a part of her couldn't help but worry at so many people within her home. But the larger part of her was pleased that so many of Naruto's classmates had decided to attend. He had invited everyone in his class except for Sasuke and Sakura. And most had come. It really looked and sounded like a normal 12-year-old's birthday party. The dining room had all sorts of food and drink as well as a large birthday cake. In the parlor music was playing and some of the children were dancing, including Naruto and Hinata of course. All of Naruto's friends were here. Shikamaru, Choji, Kiba, and even Lee, who was between missions. There was also Neji and Lee's other teammate, a girl with her hair up in 2 buns. Hiyashi was present and had permitted his other daughter Hanabi to attend. The poor dear was a bit out of place as she was younger than the other children and was used to more formal environments. There was Kakashi trying to ignore Lee's sensei, who was challenging him to a variety of contests. Might Guy was certainly friendly enough, if a bit eccentric. He had gone directly up to Naruto and begun to praise his fires of youth. Whatever that meant. He then whipped out a horrendous lime green spandex leotard which matched the one he was wearing. The man had somehow brainwashed Lee into wearing one and was trying to inflict the same on her son. Naruto accepted the gift with a weak smile and promised to try it on later. XXXXXXXXXX. Ino danced with a few different boys but spent most of her time eyeing Naruto like a hawk eyeing a plump rabbit. Hinata stayed glued to Naruto's side, guarding him against Ino and the horde of lesser fangirls. XXXXXXXXXX. Jiraiya was pestering poor Tsunade for a dance. Kushina had warned her against any displays of violence in front of the kids. By the way, the vein in Tsunade's forehead was bulging. It looked like Jiraiya was seriously pushing his luck. XXXXXXXXXX. Sarutobi's arrival caused quite a stir. Most of the students had never met him. Once they were over the initial shock and awe, they began treating him like a kindly grandfather. A role he was quite happy to fulfill. XXXXXXXXXX. Kushina frowned at the sight of Mizuki. She had never trusted or liked him. She watched as he approached her son. He put a friendly hand on her son's shoulder and spoke to him for a bit. He soon nodded and began leading his sensei towards the stairs. "Going somewhere, son?" "Oh mom, Mizuki-sensei wants to see our family library." "That's okay, isn't it?" She lifted an eyebrow and looked at the man. "Looking for anything in particular?" Mizuki smiled at her. "Not really. But I am a teacher after all." And I could hardly pass up the opportunity to see the Namikaze library. She nodded. Of course, just so long as you understand it's a private library. You are quite welcome to read anything you like, but we don't allow anything to be removed. Mizuki nodded happily. Of course. XXXXXXXXXXX. He looked over the many rows of books. Some of them really were quite interesting. He wouldn't have minded spending a few afternoons here simply reading. But of course that was not the reason he was there. This really is a fine collection, Naruto. It may well be the most comprehensive one in Konoha. You should be very proud. Thanks. Naruto smiled and rubbed the back of his head. He really liked Mizuki-sensei. Mizuki was always encouraging and full of praise. When he'd asked for an invitation to his birthday party, Naruto had been very flattered. You know, Naruto, I'm curious about something. Yes, Mizuki-sensei. Well, I don't see any jutsu scrolls anywhere. Oh, we keep them locked in there. Naruto pointed to a door at the far end of the library. My mom keeps them locked up, but she'll take out whichever ones I want to study. Are you studying something now? Mizuki asked, curious. Naruto nodded. I'm studying a few B-rank wind jutsus and one of my dad's original creations, Flying Thunder God technique. Mizuki didn't have to pretend to be impressed. You're studying that jutsu? Naruto nodded but looked unhappy. Yes, but it has been really slow going. Well, that's not surprising, Naruto. It is an extremely advanced A-rank technique. Your father's mastery of it was one of the reasons he was so extraordinary. But Rasengan's an A-rank technique too, and I mastered that in less than a year. You've mastered Rasengan? Mizuki shook his head. He most definitely did not want to have to fight Naruto. Naruto looked a bit embarrassed. Oh, that's supposed to be a secret. Please don't tell anyone, Mizuki-sensei. Mizuki smiled down at the boy. Don't worry, Naruto. You can trust me. XXXXXXXXXXX. Where is your sensei? Kushina asked when she saw Naruto come down the stairs on his own. Oh, he wanted to stay and read some of the books. Naruto answered simply. Did he now? Kushina sounded anything but surprised. And by any chance did he ask where the jutsu scrolls were? Yeah, Mom, how'd you know? She sighed and ruffled her son's hair. Naruto-kun, you're really going to have to work on those blind spots. Huh, she shook her head. I'll explain it tomorrow. Tonight just enjoy your party. Her son shrugged and hurried to where Hinata was waiting for him. She meanwhile approached the Hokage. XXXXXXXXXXX. Mizuki hurried, knowing time was of the essence. The tiny 10 by 10 foot room held hundreds of jutsu scrolls. He would gladly have traded a year of his life for just one undisturbed hour in this room. Within the room was a small desk with about a dozen scrolls just laying on top. Sure enough, these had to be the ones he had used most recently, as Flying Thunder God was among them. He was taking that one for sure. His luck was in, as he found Shadow Clone Technique was also on the desk. These two scrolls would please Lord Orochimaru greatly. While he was here, he took a couple more just for himself. He carefully concealed them beneath his Chunin vest. Now he just needed to calmly stroll out the front door. Opening the door to the room, he stepped quickly out into the library. He was immediately grabbed and slammed down to the floor. His arms were painfully gripped from behind. Well, I'll give you credit for having guts. Despite being a teacher, you don't seem to have much in the way of brains though. Kushina said. Mizuki looked up to see Kushina and the Hokage frowning down at him. Behind him were a pair of Anbu with a firm grip. Why did you do this, Mizuki? The Hokage asked. Mizuki said nothing as the Anbu swiftly disarmed him and liberated the scrolls he had taken. The Hokage merely sighed. Take him to Ibiki, but leave through a side entrance. There is no need to disturb the children with this. XXXXXXXXXXX. Naruto thoroughly enjoyed his 12th birthday party. He danced the whole time with Hinata, had cake and ice cream, and got to open a small mountain of gifts. He thanked each and every person as he opened their gift. At the end though, he noticed that one person he was very close to hadn't given him anything. Godmother, you didn't get me anything. Naruto pouted. Tsunade smiled. Oh, but I do have a gift for you, Naruto. Well, where is it? I'll give it to you a little later. When? Later. She refused to say anything more. XXXXXXXXXXX. The guests enjoyed themselves and many stayed late. It was only as midnight approached that the mansion was nearly empty again. By then only Kushina, Naruto, Hinata, Tsunade, Jiraiya, Kakashi, Shizune, and Sarutobi remained. Tsunade smiled at Naruto. Naruto, would you like me to give you my present now? Sure. Naruto said happily. Actually, before I give it to you, there's something I want to announce. She looked over to the Hokage. Would you like to do the honors, old man? Sarutobi shook his head. No, Tsunade, go ahead by all means. Well, to make a long story short, a couple months ago the old man asked me to take over for him so he could retire. What? Jiraiya screeched. Why her? Why didn't you ask me? Sarutobi sighed. I asked her because she was one of the legendary Sannin who I knew the council would accept without dispute. So am I. Jiraiya shouted. Yes, but she is not a pornographer. Sarutobi said tiredly. Jiraiya sniffed. My novels are not pornography. They are adult-themed literature and hugely popular. You do know, don't you, that if you were Hokage you wouldn't be able to go on any more of your disgusting research trips anymore? Tsunade said icily. Jiraiya smirked. I didn't say I would do it. I just said I should have been asked. Tsunade shut her eyes. Anyway, the old man asked if I would take over for him and become the Godime Hokage. What did you say, Lady Tsunade? Shizune asked excitedly. Tsunade smiled wryly. Well, despite my better judgment I said yes. Everyone but Sarutobi began to shout and excitedly congratulate her. Well, I guess you finally got over your negative feelings for the village. Kushina said. I did. But I'm not actually doing this for the village. You're not? Kushina said in surprise. No. Tsunade said. Jiraiya smiled. Are you doing it for the old man? Nope. Tsunade replied. Then why are you doing it, godmother? Naruto asked. Tsunade leaned down to put her face at Naruto eye level. I did it for you. Naruto. For me, he said in a small voice. She nodded and gently stroked his cheek. Yes, Naruto-kun, for you. Because I love you, my godson, and I want you to have your dream. Reaching down, she pulled out her necklace and displayed the crystal for him. Do you know what this is? Naruto shook his head. No, godmother. This is the Shodai's necklace. It was given to me when I was a very little girl by my grandfather, the Shodai Hokage. The crystal is unique, there are only 2 like it in the entire world. With this necklace you could buy a pair of gold mines and the mountains on top of them. But that is not the only thing that makes it special. For you see, this necklace also comes with a curse. A curse? Naruto asked, interest definitely rising. Tsunade nodded. That's right. Only those who are destined to become Hokage can own it. Twice in my life I gave the necklace to someone that I loved. To my little brother Naoki and to the man I loved, Dan. They both dreamed of being Hokage and of protecting this village. That was their dream, Naruto, as it is your dream now. They both died in battle not long after I gave it to them. Losing them shattered my heart. For a long time I didn't think I would be able to care for anyone ever again. She stopped to compose herself. But then I got to know you, Naruto-kun. I've watched you grow up and seen just how much you have been ready to sacrifice in order to protect this village. And I've seen how much you love and treasure the people of this village. Even though a great many of them hate you. You've reminded me of just why Dan and Naoki wanted to be Hokage. In you, Naruto-kun, I feel their dream still lives. She quickly rubbed her eyes. Knowing you has healed my heart and allowed me to love again. She reached behind her neck and unclasped the necklace. After Dan died I swore I would never give this to anyone else. But I've decided that once more, just once more, I will put the odds on you. Tsunade, you can't. It's too much. Kushina gasped. Tsunade looked at her and shook her head. All this is proof of my faith in your son. She turned back to Naruto. Naruto-kun, I accepted the position of Godime Hokage so I could make sure you would reach your dream one day. Become the good man and great ninja I know you will be, and when the time comes I will name you my successor. She placed the necklace around his neck. Accept from me this necklace and with it my blessing. She leaned forward and kissed his forehead. Naruto hugged her as hard as he could. I love you, godmother. She gladly returned his embrace. I love you too, Naruto. She smiled down at him despite the tears in her eyes. Happy birthday. Chapter 15. Sarutobi's retirement and Tsunade's replacement of him was announced early in November to general celebration. As Sarutobi had expected, the council approved the nomination without a murmur. On New Year's Day Tsunade became the 5th Hokage. Kushina had graciously agreed to allow her friend to have the job on the side. She and Naruto had both stood there beside her on top of the tower as all Konoha cheered their new Hokage. As he stood there, Naruto had closed his eyes and pretended, for just a moment, that they were all cheering for him. XXXXXXXXXXX. In January it finally happened. Hinata beat Sasuke in a spar and rose to be number 2 in the class standings. People were also beginning to notice her ability with medical jutsus and talk about her as the next Tsunade. She made a medicinal cream she shared with all her classmates, including Sasuke, which worked wonders on any cuts or bruises. Hinata was coming into her own as a powerful medic nin who was also an excellent combat specialist. People began to say that she would make a perfect partner for Naruto, who was also a close combat specialist. Sasuke did not miss the talk. One evening in January he was at a dinner with his mother Makoto and his uncle Ryuki. Everyone acknowledged Sasuke as both a genius and heir to the clan. Until he turned 16, though Makoto was the clan head. Technically she was, but many of the clan members felt she was too kind and too soft to be in charge of the Uchihas. However, most did not want to offend Sasuke by removing her. The solution had been to have Fugaku's younger brother help and advise his sister-in-law. In title Makoto was clan head, but in fact Ryuki held greater sway and his advice was usually followed. Sasuke understood the reality and was not bothered by it. He loved his mother dearly, but she was not ninja. She was too kind-hearted and too gentle to deal with the harsh realities of ninja and Uchiha life. He would never, ever admit this, but a part of him was jealous that his mother was not more like Kushina. A woman who was loving and tender to her son and viciously lethal to any who threatened him. "I need help with something," Sasuke said casually as he, his mother, and his uncle ate. "What is it, dear?" Makoto asked. "I would like Uchiha Ichala to begin giving Haruno Sakura lessons in medical jutsus." "Oh really?" Ryuki frowned and took a sip of tea. "You expect me to just order her to take an apprentice? And one who is not even of Uchiha blood?" Ryuki shook his head. "Such things are not done. Son, why do you want Sakura to learn medical jutsus? Has she asked you for help?" Makoto asked. Sasuke shook his head. "She's not very powerful, but she has excellent chakra control. If she's going to be my partner, I need her to be as strong and effective as possible. For someone of her abilities, being a medic nin is obviously the best choice. Ichala is the only medic nin in our clan. It would help me if she would give Sakura some instruction." Sasuke tried to smile. "She has learned from Tsunade. So if she teaches Sakura, it will be a little like she studied under Tsunade, though at second hand." Ryuki smiled and took another sip of tea. "Which is not nearly as good as learning at first hand as Hyuga Hinata has done." Ryuki saw the tiny flash of feeling in his nephew's eyes at the mention of Hinata's name. "Naruto will end up with her on his team, I'm sure of it. So he will have a powerful medic nin to heal him and help protect him. I want the same kind of support." "Dear, does Sakura want to be a medic nin?" his mother asked. Sasuke shrugged. "No, but once I've talked to her she will." He sounded very sure. Ryuki sighed. "I will tell Ichala what you ask and leave the decision to her. I will not order her to take on an apprentice." "Thank you, uncle." If she didn't agree, Sasuke would talk to her himself. He was sure he could win her over. Makoto looked at her son unhappily. "Sasuke, do you love this girl?" He looked at his mother in surprise. What are your feelings towards this girl? I know I can count on her and that she can help me reach my goals. I think she will make a good partner for me," he said simply. "So you have no feelings for her at all?" He shrugged. "I've actually started to like her a bit and I trust her to do as I say." "But you have no romantic feelings for her whatsoever," his mother said sadly. "Sasuke, I have seen the look in her eyes when she is with you. The girl is in love with you." "I know," he replied coolly. "That is why I can trust her." His mother stood up from the table, suddenly no longer hungry. "My son, you are becoming like your brother." He looked at her in outrage as if she had just slapped him. "I'm nothing like him." "Are you sure?" Makoto spoke with rare anger and quickly left the dining room. Sasuke and Ryuki sat there in silence for a moment. "Don't be upset with your mother, Sasuke," Ryuki said quietly. "She is a kind and good woman and she loves you. But she is not ninja and we cannot expect to understand all the truths of ninja life." Sasuke nodded and decided to let his hurt feelings go. His mother was no Kushina, but he loved her and would not blame her for not understanding. XXXXXXXXXXX. The Anbu captain connected with a hard punch to his opponent's jaw, sending him to the ground. All right Naruto, how about we call it a day? Kakashi tried not to sound winded, wishing for once that Naruto would want to do something other than spar whenever he came over. Ah, come on Nissan. He was quickly back on his feet. Just one more time, please. Kakashi shook his head and pulled off his dog mask. The last 3 spars have been, just one more time. Take pity on your big brother. Not all of us have your energy. Fine. The two of them began heading back inside. Nissan, will you be getting a team again this year? Kakashi looked at him and sighed. He knew where this was going. I've had one each of the last 5, so I imagine I'll get one this year's too. And before you ask, I don't know what the assignments will be. Naruto gave him a huge smile. Wouldn't it be great though if you were my sensei? Kakashi smiled. I would like that Naruto. I would like to try and be for you the same sort of teacher and role model your father was for me. Of course you'd have to pass my test first. Oh, don't worry. Me and my team will definitely pass. Naruto spoke with total confidence. Oh really? Kakashi smirked. How can you be so sure when you don't even know who will be on your team? I know all the strengths and weaknesses of all my classmates. Whoever my teammates are all lead us to victory. His smile slipped a bit. So long as I'm not stuck with that bastard Sasuke. Kakashi sighed. You know Naruto, not all the Uchihas come with horns and a tail. You've told me about Obito. I've told you about Fugaku, Itachi and Sasuke. So far none of the Uchihas I've met have been heroes. He shrugged. If I meet one who convinces me otherwise, I'll change my opinion. Until then I'm not trusting any of them. Guilty until proven innocent. Guilty until proven they're not all out to kill me. He frowned. I mean, how can you ask me to trust such a deceitful bunch? Fugaku supposedly died while traveling in Bear Country and Itachi isn't even listed in the bingo book as a missing nin. The only reason I know the truth is because my mom is on the council. Why are the Uchihas allowed to just bury the truth? Kakashi shrugged. They're ninjas and as such understand the power information has. Anyway, I'm sure you wouldn't begrudge them a few secrets now, would you? Naruto gave him a sour look. You know the way you defend them, people would think that the clan liked you. Why do you stand up for them when they all try and pretend you don't exist? I owe it to Obito's memory. Besides, it's just a little petty jealousy that a non-Uchiha has managed to copy more than 1,000 jutsus. So far as I know, none of them have gained even half that many. Well, whose fault is that? Naruto sounded downright offended. They should look to you as an example of what they can accomplish with some hard work. But instead they're just jealous of you. Kakashi sighed. Even if some of them are jealous, that's not the same as having all of them out to get you. I never said they were out to get you, Kakashi Nissan. He shook his head. Let's stop talking about the Uchiha clan. It's leaving a bad taste in my mouth. XXXXXXXXXXX. Sakura was staring up at a frowning dark-haired woman wearing a Chunin vest. So you are Sakura. Hi, she said in a small voice. The woman's frown deepened. I can tell just by looking at you that you're weak. She reached out and actually took a hold of one of her arms. No muscle tone at all. How do you expect to survive on the battlefield? With looks and wit, do you think some sand nin will decide not to lop off that pretty little head of yours because he thinks you're cute? She began to feel very scared. No. No what? The woman said angrily. No sensei. The woman nodded, slightly mollified. But the frown hadn't left. Sakura was beginning to wonder if it ever would. My name is Uchiha Ichala, and from this point on you will address me as Ichala Sensei. Do you understand me, Cherry Blossom Girl? Yes, Ichala Sensei. She nodded. Let me explain something to you right off the bat. I don't like you. Each word was punctuated by a finger poking into her huge forehead. I never wanted an apprentice, and if I ever had, I'd have looked for a student from my own clan. I agreed to take on this burden as a favor to Sasuke. As such, I really don't care about your feelings or whether or not you hate me. In fact, I can pretty much guarantee that you're going to hate me. But if you do what I say, you will become a strong and capable kunoichi and medic nin. Maybe you'll even live long enough to be of some help to Sasuke. From now on, whenever I am in Konoha, you will come here after class for 3 hours of physical and medical training. I won't just be teaching you jutsus. It's obvious you need to build up your physical strength and chakra capacity as well. I also wouldn't be shocked if your taijutsu was mediocre. For at least the next couple years I will be training you. Years, Sakura said weakly. Ichala leaned her face down into Sakura's. What was that? I mean, years sensei. Sakura answered in a panic. That's right. I expect to have the joy of your company cherry blossom for at least the next couple of years. But Ichala sensei, I will be graduating come May. I know that. Ichala's tone was icy and her look clearly said she thought Sakura an idiot. Even after you have been placed on a genin team, I will expect you to still come here for additional training. Now let's start building up some stamina into that weak body of yours with 10 laps around the Uchiha compound. Run, maggot. Sakura ran and Ichala stayed right behind, screaming at her to run harder. Sakura tried not to cry and reminded herself that this was so she could be stronger and better help Sasuke. XXXXXXXXXXX. The last semester passed quickly. Hinata solidified her position as number 2 within her class. About halfway through she finally managed to finish a full 10-hour workout. This in turn made Kiba even more determined to work hard. He eventually got up to 8 hours. Near the end of the semester Sakura began to noticeably improve her taijutsu and stamina. She even demonstrated a couple basic medical jutsus, though her skill did not compare to Hinata's. Before they knew it, the last official day of class began. One by one they were given the exam. They all passed, of course. The exam was really just a formality. Only a very weak ninja would fail it. Iruka stood proudly looking at 30 smiling faces. All of them had put on their new Hittites. When we began 4 long years ago there were 50 of you. Now 30 of you remain. I have no doubt that each and every one of you will go on to have a fine career and make Konoha and your families proud. I want you all to know that I am proud of all of you who have endured and reached this day. I am honored to call myself your sensei and want you all to know that should you ever need advice or help, my door is always open. You are all ninjas now and you are all adults. But as ninjas you are the lowest of the low. Please keep in mind that. As such you will need to continue to work hard and pay attention to your new sensei. Please report back here tomorrow to be assigned to your new teams and to your senseis. Oh, and just one more thing. With a smile he began to walk up the steps between the desks. All the students looked at him wondering what was going on. He approached Shikamaru who was taking his usual nap. With a grin Iruka leaned down and put his mouth right next to the boy's ear. Shikamaru. Gah! The boy shouted and dropped out of his seat. The entire class burst into laughter. XXXXXXXXXXX. Man, what a drag, I can't believe Iruka-sensei pulled such a lame stunt. Kiba laughed. Ha! I can't believe I never thought of it. You know Shika, whoever your sensei is, he won't let you get away with doing nothing all the time. Naruto said. You're going to actually have to put in some effort. Don't remind me. Shikamaru grumbled. Shikamaru-kun, I am sure whoever your sensei is that things will be alright. Hinata said with certainty. As they approached the door, Ino and some of her posse got in front of it to block them and the entire class from exiting. Hey everyone, I'm announcing a graduation party at my house tonight. All of you are welcome. There'll be food, drink, music, and fun. She smiled at Naruto. Will you come, Naruto-kun? He looked to Hinata. Want to go, Hinata-chan? She nodded. Sure, Naruto-kun, Ino's parties are always fun. Count us in then, Naruto said with a smile. Great. I'll see you all there. She smiled brightly and led the class out. XXXXXXXXXXX. I am very proud of you, Naruto-kun. She hugged her son tight. From this day forward you are a leaf ninja and an adult. She tightened her hug a bit. But please never forget that you will also always be my little Naruto-kun. He smiled. I understand, Mom, but please don't call that except when we're alone. No promises. She laughed at his unhappy expression. Now I have a graduation gift for you. Is it a katana? He asked eagerly. She smiled. Yes. What? He leapt about 2 feet into the air. Kushina opened a cabinet and produced a sword in its scabbard. She held it out to him. Congratulations, my son. You are now shinobi and ready to carry a katana with you. Thanks, Mom. He enthusiastically took the sword from her and pulled it out to get a look at it. He smiled. It was perfect. It was exactly like hers. That small curve in the blade, the way the metal just shined, and those perfect razor-sharp edges. Now remember son, a katana is not just a weapon, it is a part of you. You must name it and give it just a little bit of your soul. I know mom. He was so excited. Something suddenly occurred to him. Hey mom, you know I never asked you. What do you call yours? She smiled and took her sword out. I call mine Homeward. I always believed that no matter how much trouble I was in, it would always help me find my way home again. Have you chosen a name for yours? He nodded and placed his left hand over the blade. You are Defender, because you will help me to defend and protect all the people of this village. He let the sword cut into his palm. Taste of me and know me, for you are part of me now. Kushina nodded, proud and sad at the same time. Well son, I have to go somewhere, but I'll be back before you leave for your party. Where are you going? Oh, I just have to take care of a little something. XXXXXXXXXXX. Ino rubbed her hands together eagerly. This is the night. Tonight I'm getting Naruto's very first kiss. Oh, give it up Ino. Sakura said. I mean the way those two are, he must have already kissed her. Sakura said. Nope. Ino replied with conviction. Hinata admitted over lunch that they've never kissed. But even if that's true, what makes you think tonight will be any different? Delona asked. I mean you've had 4 years and nothing. What makes you think tonight will be special? Ino grinned. I have a secret weapon. My folks just got in some of these. Excitedly she pulled out a small jar with a flower with white and red leaves. Oh, is that a vermala? Sakura asked. Ino nodded happily. It sure is. The red leaves symbolize love and the white ones mean purity. This flower is a symbol of pure love. And any girl can kiss any boy who stands underneath one. Delona said. Exactly. Ino cooed. All I have to do is get him to stand underneath it and he'll have to kiss me. And I just know once he kisses me he'll realize how much he loves me. Sakura looked at the little plant and wondered if there was any way she could maneuver Sasuke underneath it. There's one small problem with your plan though. Do you really think Hinata is just going to stand there and let you kiss him? Ino's grin turned evil. Well, that's where you girls come in. Let me explain my plan and how we can make Operation Get Naruto's first kiss a success. To begin with, XXXXXXXXXX. Iruka sighed. He should have known that this is what it would be about. He had actually thought that when the Hokage summoned him to her office it might have been to discuss a new assignment. But no, it was all about. Now I want to assure you Iruka that this has nothing to do with the team assignments. The Hokage said to him with a smile. You are after all the instructor and that decision is fully in your hands. I would never order you to do something you did not wish to. She assured him. However, we are a bit curious as to where you will be placing our children. Kushina said in a light tone. Indeed, Hiashi said. Well, my intention was to place Naruto on a team with Delona and Kiba. He frowned a bit. By all rights Shikamaru should be on that team as he was the weakest student and Naruto the best. But the heads of the Nara, Yamenka, and Akamichi clans were all insistent that their children serve on the same squad. Hinata will be on a squad with Loram and Ronto. I see. Tsunade said flatly. Interesting choices. Hiashi said neutrally. Kushina nodded. Yes, very interesting. Have you considered however that given Naruto and Hinata's lifelong friendship and special relationship that they might excel were they allowed to work together? Indeed. Hiashi said. Hinata has grown strong since working beside Naruto. I see no reason to believe she would not continue to do so for as long as they were partnered. I recognize how strong their bond is. Iruka stated. But given that Hinata is second in the class, one thought she should be on a separate team. Putting her on a squad with Naruto would overbalance them. Kushina smiled. Too much of a good thing, huh? Well, I certainly find no fault with your logic, Iruka. The Hokage spoke with a polite and pleasant tone. But I think you will agree that there are times when exceptions should be made. Were you willing to see your way clear, in this case the Hyuga clan would be in your debt. Hiashi said plainly. Namikaze already considers you a friend. Kushina said cheerfully. If you could just grant us this tiny favor we would consider you an even better friend. Well, they're at least polite about it, which is better than the Uchiha clan. And they aren't as annoying begging like the Nara, Yamanaka, and Akamichi. Like most times in Konoha the clans held the real power. Iruka supposed he should be glad he was at least allowed to do as he saw fit with most of the students. I understand. He said simply and nodded. Wonderful. Tsunade said. I thank you. Hiyashi said. Great. Kushina replied. Oh, and by the way, we'd like Kakashi to be there. Sensei. Iruka sighed and nodded. He decided not to bother telling them Kakashi was always slated to be Naruto's sensei. Chapter 16. XXXXXXXXXX. Welcome, I'm so happy you could make it. Ino greeted them at the door. Thanks for inviting us. Naruto said. Yes, thank you, Ino. Hinata said. Come on in and make yourselves at home. My parents are at the Naras, so we're unsupervised. Ino told them happily. You mean there are no adults here? Naruto said, surprised. Ino laughed and tapped her Hitai. What are you talking about, Naruto-kun? The place is packed with adults. Naruto chuckled. I guess you've got a point there, Ino. He and Hinata had both been there before for birthday and end of semester parties. They moved to the living room where the music was playing. At the entrance they noticed that the dancers were steering clear of one corner of the room. Hinata was the first to spot a small plant in a pot hanging from the ceiling on some wires. Oh, Hinata said in surprise. What? Naruto asked. Oh well, Ino has put a vermala in the corner there. Hinata pointed. Naruto needed a minute to think. Oh, is that the kissing flower? The one where if you're underneath it you have to give a kiss? Yes. She couldn't help it, she was blushing. I wonder if I tripped him while we were dancing if he would stumble far enough. She immediately felt guilty for thinking of something so underhanded. But she still tried to figure out if there was any way she could get him over to that corner. Do I really want him to kiss me even if it's just because of a silly tradition? She thought about it honestly for a moment. Hell yes I do. Naruto smiled at her. I guess we better stay clear of that corner then, huh? Oh, yes of course. She gave him a weak smile. He frowned a bit and put a hand on her forehead. Are you all right, Hinata-chan? You look kind of flushed. She nodded quickly. I'm fine, Naruto-kun. Let's dance. As Hinata and Naruto entered the dance floor, Ino watched carefully from the edge of the room. She leaned against the wall and simply waited for her moment of opportunity. Tonight she was the wolf, and she'd be damned if she'd leave this hunt without her prize. XXXXXXXXXXX. Most people would never guess that Ino had patience. Of course these people had never been shopping with her. She was often loud and brash and always pushy. But when the situation called for it, she knew how to bide her time. Like a shopper searching for the perfect pair of shoes or the best bargain, she understood that opportunity came to those who were willing to wait and pounce when the moment came. She was also someone who believed in research. She went through the weekend paper looking for sales and tried to go into a shopping trip as prepared as possible. Now she'd had 4 long years to scout out her prey. She knew the habits of both her prey and her prey's protector quite well. She'd thought everything out carefully. The food and punch were in the kitchen around the hall, out of sight of the living room. 3 of her girls would be in position all night. They had worked out the shift so that someone was always there. She made sure that at all times she had a cup full of punch in her hand. The opportunity would come, and whenever it did she would take advantage of it. Her plan would probably not buy her more than a minute or 2 at the most, but that would be enough. She smiled as she watched Naruto and Hinata dance as gracefully as they always did. You are mine, Naruto-kun. Tonight I make you mine. XXXXXXXXXX. Normally Sakura would have been thrilled just to be on the dance floor with him. At first he'd refused to dance with her. But slowly he had warmed up, and whenever they went to parties they would spend most of the night on the dance floor. Usually that was plenty to make her happy. But tonight she was frustrated and about ready to start pulling her hair out. No matter how she tried to subtly drive him towards the corner, they never went past the middle of the room. Actually no one had. Supposedly quite a few of the girls had boyfriends and most of them claimed to have kissed. Well, perhaps they had, but so far no one had shown the guts to kiss in public, even when though the vermala provided a perfect excuse. Sasuke smirked at her. It's not happening, Sakura, so stop trying so hard. A flush of guilt colored her cheeks. What are you talking about? He shook his head and gave her an impish little grin. We're not going to make out under that plant, so stop trying to lead me there. I don't know what you mean. Her blush got darker. Sure you don't. The frustration just boiled over. Sasuke-kun, don't you want to kiss me? He gave her a smile that made her knees weak. Of course I do, Sakura-chan, and one day I will. But not yet. But why not? Because when I do kiss you Sakura, it will mean I am ready to give you all of my heart. I am not ready yet, but if you stay and fight by my side I know I will be one day. Sakura stared at him. His answer was very romantic and a part of her was thrilled to hear him say such serious and deep words to her. But another part of her wanted to scream at him, it's just a kiss, not a marriage proposal. In the end she decided to just keep dancing with him. She would stay by his side and just hope that the day he was talking about wasn't too far off. XXXXXXXXXX. The song they were listening to came to an end, and in the short interval before the next one started Hinata looked up at him. I'm thirsty Naruto-kun, do want some punch? He nodded. Sure Hinata-chan. I'll be right back. She headed for the kitchen and the punch bowl. As Hinata walked past her, Ino put the plastic cup to her lips to hide a predatory smile. Now, with ease she began to approach Naruto from his blind side while holding out the cup. XXXXXXXXXXX. Delona saw Hinata and felt just a little panic at what she was supposed to do. She took a deep breath and calmed herself. Ino was counting her. Ow! She clutched to her stomach and collapsed onto the kitchen floor. Hinata instantly put down her cup to kneel over her classmate. The other people in the kitchen quickly gathered all around them. What's wrong Delona? Oh, my stomach, it hurts. Just lie back and relax, I'll perform a jutsu to check your vitals. Hinata performed a few hand signs and placed her hand on the girl's stomach. XXXXXXXXXXX. Naruto-kun. She called out to him. As he turned around she deliberately ran into him by accident, and spilled punch all over her dress. Naruto saw the punch spill all over Ino. Oh, I'm sorry Ino. I didn't see you there. She stared at him and looked furious. Naruto. You've just ruined a brand new dress. I bought this just for the party tonight and now look at it. The stain will never come out. She stepped into his face and with righteous fury stuck a finger to his chest. Naruto had never had the infamous Ino fury directed towards him, and he did what any sane person would do, he retreated. He held up his hands defensively and gave ground before her anger. Ino, I apologize, I'll pay for the dress. Oh, is that what you think? She continued to poke him and push him ahead of her. You think you can just buy me off? Yes, I mean no. Everyone stopped dancing and turned their attention towards them. Well, let me tell you something Naruto. She came to a halt. And then her anger seemed to disappear like smoke on the wind. I finally got where I want you. Ino was suddenly smiling. Huh. He was confused not just by her sudden change in mood but by the fact everyone was suddenly laughing and pointing. Shikamaru shook his head. Naruto. He called. Yeah Shika. Shikamaru smirked and pointed to a spot above his head. You just got checkmated. Naruto looked up and sure enough he was standing directly underneath the Vermala. Ah hell, I got ambushed. Ino put her hands on both his shoulders and leaned in towards him. It's the rules Naruto-kun, you have to kiss me now. Or do you want to break tradition and get bad karma? Immediately the girls began crying out for Ino to kiss him. He knew Hinata-chan would be upset with him for this, but he just stood there and let Ino draw her lips to his. XXXXXXXXXX. Hinata frowned at the girl. Delona, there's nothing physically wrong with you. Where is the pain exactly? Right here. She put a hand on her stomach. Hinata continued to frown as she didn't know what the problem could be. As she knelt there in the kitchen she heard a commotion come from the living room. And she heard Sakura call as clear as day. Kiss him Ino. Everything snapped into place instantly. She knew who Ino wanted to kiss. She jumped to her feet and rushed back to the living room. There from the entryway she spotted Ino with her hands on Naruto-kun leaning in towards him. Something inside her snapped and she acted without conscious thought. Shoving people out of her way she hurried over to them. Grabbing Ino by her blonde ponytail, Hinata yanked her back so hard she was thrown down to the living room floor. Ow! Ino cried out and rubbed the back of her head. She looked up to see a furious Hinata standing between her and a shocked Naruto. What's wrong with you? She stood protectively in front of Naruto and glared down at the blonde. Don't ever do that again Ino. No one kisses Naruto-kun but me. She screamed at the girl. Everyone stared at Hinata in shock. Hinata-chan. His voice called quietly from behind. She turned around to see him looking at her in shock. Her sudden moment of anger was gone and she was abruptly aware of what she had just said in front of her classmates and in front of him. And as she stood there with all their eyes on her, she realized it was a decisive moment in her life. She suddenly remembered the words Kushina had said 4 years ago. Can you pledge everything to be with him? Can you offer your life, your heart, and your very soul to stand beside him? Do you love him that much? Looking into Naruto's surprised face, she asked herself if she really loved him that much. And she found her answer. Yes, I do, she whispered. Huh. Naruto had been the only one to hear her. She looked into his blue eyes and felt that courage she always did when she was near him. She felt the courage to follow her heart. Yes, I do. She spoke loudly and clearly for all to hear. I do love you that much, Naruto-kun. She swiftly leaned forward, put her arms around his neck and kissed his lips. The entire crowd was stunned. And then they began to cheer and whistle at the long and intense kiss. Hinata heard them but didn't care. She slowly opened her eyes and pulled back from him. Naruto was just staring at her. He didn't seem able to say a word or make any sound at all. She didn't know what to say or do, and everyone was loudly cheering for her to kiss him again. Suddenly confused and embarrassed, she ran away and got out of that house. XXXXXXXXXX. She was just sitting on a rooftop about 10 blocks away. She was trying to understand how things had gotten so out of hand in less than a minute. She had kissed him and declared her love for him publicly. There was no going back now. When she heard someone land nearby, she knew who it was. Hello, Naruto-kun. She didn't bother to turn around. Do you mind if I sit with you, Hinata-chan? She shook her head. Of course not, Naruto-kun. He approached her with both hands behind his back and sat down on the roof's edge next to her. Hinata-chan, I just want. Wait. She turned to him desperate. Naruto-kun, can I talk first? There is something I really need to tell you, and I'm afraid that if I wait I'll lose my nerve. All right, Hinata-chan. She looked into his eyes and gathered her courage to do what she needed to. Naruto-kun, I love you. I have always loved you. I can't remember a time in my life when I didn't. And I don't mean that I love you like a friend. It started like that, but my feelings grew and intensified. I love you with my entire heart, Naruto-kun, and I would give everything just to be with you. I know that you don't see me as a girlfriend or even a potential girlfriend, but that's all right. Because I'll wait and try to bring your heart to where mine is now. All I want is to be with you, Naruto-kun. And if we can only be together as friends for now, I'll accept that, but know that my love for you is real and will never change. She stopped. He was just looking at her in amazement. I'm done now. That was everything I wanted to say. He continued to stare at her for a while. Naruto-kun, please say something. He smiled. I love you too, Hinata-chan. I was just wondering what I had ever done to deserve you. You mean you love me as a friend, right? Still smiling, he brought a hand out from behind his back. Nope, not like a friend, Hinata-chan. He was holding the vermala in his hand and held it up over her head. I'm sorry I didn't realize it sooner, but when you kissed me it sort of came clear. I love you, Hinata-chan, and I always want you to be with me. Really? She replied in a small voice. Really? He began to lean forward when she suddenly put her little hand in front of his face. Wait. She reached up to take the vermala from him and put it on the roof. Don't you want to kiss me, Hinata-chan? He said in a hurt voice. Yes, Naruto-kun, I do. She leaned in and put her arms around him. From now on all of my kisses are yours and you can have them whenever you want. I just want you to know it's because I love you and not because of a flower or a tradition. With that, the two of them slowly leaned in and began to gently press their lips together underneath the stars. XXXXXXXXXXX. After dropping off, Hinata, Kushina and her son walked up to their front door. You know, don't you, Mom? Naruto wasn't asking a question. In reply, Kushina smiled at him. Protective surveillance was a wonderful thing. She is going to make you a wonderful wife someday. She sighed happily. Chapter 17. As they headed to the academy for their assignments, Hinata and Naruto walked hand in hand like always. But when Hinata looked over at him, she was looking at her boyfriend. Naruto-kun, what will we do if we aren't on the same team? She asked plaintively. He smiled at her and gave her hand a gentle squeeze. It'll be all right, Hinata-chan. But I don't want to be away from you, Naruto-kun. Now that we're finally boyfriend and girlfriend, I don't want us to be apart. She felt panicked at the thought of being away from him. He was her courage, and over the last 4 years they had been together nearly every single day. Now she was facing the very real possibility of having to go days or even weeks without seeing him. She didn't know if she could bear that. Naruto stopped and pulled her into a comforting hug. It'll be okay. Hinata-chan, whatever happens we will still see each other, even if it's not as often as we want. Even if we are apart I know how strong you are and I know you'll do great. Thank you Naruto-kun. She was still worried but felt a bit better. Kushina walked behind them and didn't say a word. It was not a bad thing for them to go into situations considering the possibilities and the worst case scenario. XXXXXXXXXX. As Iruka came out with his clipboard the two of them held hands and whispered silent prayers that Kami, or Iruka-sensei, would be kind. Well I know you're all very anxious to find out your team assignments and I won't keep you in suspense any longer. Team 1 will have. With each team announcement they held their breaths and waited. As Iruka read off team after team the tension built until finally. Team 7 will have Namikaze Naruto. Naruto sat bolt upright and looked at Hinata fearfully. Inuzuka Kiba, and Naruto and Hinata both leaned forward begging and pleading to hear, Hyuga Hinata. Yada. Naruto jumped into the air and pumped a fist over his head. Yes. Hinata cried out. All right. Kiba shouted. No. Ino wailed in despair. Iruka shook his head. All right everyone now settle down. Team 7 your Jonin-sensei is Hitaki Kakashi. Great. He looked to Hinata who was beside him and Kiba who was one row behind him. This is going to be awesome. We get to have my Nisan as sensei. Naruto, Iruka called out. If you don't mind I'm not done yet. Oops sorry Iruka-sensei. He quieted down but shared wide smiles with his new squad mates. As I was saying, Iruka continued. Team 8 will have Uchiha Sasuke, Haruno Sakura, and Aburame Shino. Your Jonin-sensei will be Yuhi Kurenai. Yes. Sakura shouted. Sasuke grinned and looked over to her. I told you that fate would be kind if you truly devoted yourself to me. Iruka frowned to see how Sakura was carrying on about how lucky she was to be on the same team with Sasuke. Obviously Sasuke had failed to mention that it was the Uchiha clan and not fate that had brought them together. He was tempted to tell Sakura the truth then and there. But that would only upset the Uchihas and not accomplish anything. So he simply finished up the remaining team assignments. No, 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 Ino began slamming her head against her desk. What evil did I ever do to deserve being stuck on a team with the lazy idiot and human vacuum cleaner? Shikamaru lifted his head a few inches off his desk. How much time have you got? Not being in a good mood Ino immediately attacked him mercilessly. Iruka sighed. All right you are all dismissed for lunch when you come back you will meet your senseis. He hurried up the steps to keep one member of Team 10 from killing another. Team 7 soon was together outside the main entrance. This is going to be so great. Naruto said excitedly. We are definitely going to be the most awesome squad around. Akamaru barked excitedly. Yeah, the three of us are definitely going to kick some major ass. Kiba said excitedly. Hinata was standing beside Naruto smiling happily. I am sure we will make a great team. So let's go get some lunch, my treat. Where do you want to go? Kiba asked. I've heard of this ramen place called Ichiraku's that's supposed to be really good. I've been dying to try it. Sounds good. Kiba said. Naruto-kun aren't you forgetting something? Hinata spoke up. What Hinata-chan? Well aren't you going to contact your mother to escort us? Actually I wasn't planning on it. Naruto said. We're ninjas now. The three of us are a genin squad who will be doing real missions soon. I think we can be trusted to survive a lunch at a restaurant. But, come on Hinata, Naruto has a point. Kiba said. Do you really think we can't just go there and come back without Kushina to watch out for us? Well I suppose not, Hinata admitted. Naruto had a huge smile. Well let's go then Team 7. XXXXXXXXXXX. Sasuke approached his new teammate with Sakura at his side. Shino, I know we don't really know each other very well. How about we all have lunch together? It'll be my treat. As teammates now we should really get to know one another. Yes Shino please join us. Sakura added. Shino nodded once. Very well. As they headed off to eat Sasuke wasn't too upset at the choice of his squad's third member. Shino's abilities put him somewhere in the top third of the class. His personality was such that Sasuke didn't see him as fighting for leadership of the group the way say Kiba might have. Sasuke nodded to himself, there was potential here. XXXXXXXXXXX. They had a good meal. Naruto thought the ramen was very good though not as good as his mom's, and the cook and waitress were very friendly. They made it back to the academy on time and watched as the other senseis picked up their squads. Ino left with a longing look at Naruto. Hinata activated her Byakugan so she could more effectively glare at the girl. Once all the other teams had cleared out, Naruto stood up and cheerfully went up to the blackboard. With some chalk he wrote out, "Neeson, see you at the house." "All right, let's go," he said once he'd written his message. "Go where?" Kiba asked. "We can go back to my home and start planning for the test." "What test?" Naruto shrugged. "Before we become genin we have to pass a test from our instructor. Each sensei gives their squad a test to see if they're really ready to be ninja." "What? But what about the graduation test we took yesterday?" Kiba was clearly upset at the news. "Oh, well that was just to make sure we were at least competent. I mean come on, 3 bushins. What sort of idiot can't do that?" Hinata giggled. "Naruto-kun, you can't make 3 bushins." He pouted at her. "But I can make shadow clones that are way cooler." "So what is this test going to be?" Kiba asked. Naruto shrugged. "There's no standard test. Each sensei gives their squad some sort of challenge or task to accomplish to test their abilities." "Oh, okay. Then, what sort of test does Kakashi give?" Kiba asked. Naruto looked embarrassed and rubbed the back of his head. I don't know." "What?" Kiba was on his feet glaring at Naruto. "What do you mean you don't know? The whole lunch it was, my Neeson this and my Neeson that. How can you not know what kind of test gives?" "Well," Naruto admitted to his chagrin. "He never actually told me and I never thought to ask." "Great. Some ninja spy you turn out to be." Naruto shrugged. "Well, there are a couple things I can tell you about the test though." "Like what?" Kiba grumbled. Naruto smiled. "Well, to begin with, this test has a 66% failure rate. Of the 10 squads that were formed today, no more than 3 are likely to actually pass and become genin." "Naruto-kun," Hinata asked nervously. "What happens if we fail?" He frowned and shook his head. "A fate far worse than death. If you fail you get sent back here for further instruction." "Oh no." Kiba whined and Hinata looked worried. "Hey, come on," Naruto said cheerfully. "There is no way that this squad could possibly fail. The 3 of us will definitely do great." He saw that his confidence cheered his teammates a little. Naruto-kun. Yes, Hinata-chan. You said there were 2 things you could tell us. What's the other one?" He sighed. "Well, Neeson has been assigned a squad each of the last 5 years. He's never passed one." "You mean they all failed his test?" Kiba said. "Yeah. Great. Just great." Kiba muttered. Naruto shrugged. "All the more reason for us to start planning now. Come on, let's get going." "But Naruto-kun, won't sensei get mad if we just leave?" Hinata worried. He sighed. "Hinata-chan, I love my Neeson and there are many wonderful things about him. But punctuality is definitely not one of them. He is always at least 2 hours late to everything but missions." Naruto gave a pout. "He was even late to my birthday parties. So do you really want to spend 2 hours just sitting here, or would you rather be at my home eating cookies and coming up with ideas for the test?" Team 7 soon got going. XXXXXXXXXXX. "Naruto-kun, why didn't you call me to escort you?" Kushina asked her son with a severe look. He looked up at her and took on a firm visage. "Mom, I'm a ninja of the leaf now. I think it's safe for me to go about the village without an escort." Kushina looked a bit scared. "Son, do you remember what happened the last time you weren't escorted?" Naruto nodded. "I remember, Mom. But I'm not an academy student anymore. I'm a ninja and I have a Hitai Ite and a katana that you gave me. If I'm not ready to go around without an escort, when will I be?" "Naruto-kun, you know you are a special case." He nodded. "I know that, Mom. But before long I'll be leaving the village to go on real missions in other countries. I'm trusted to not only survive but to help my teammates and accomplish the mission goals. If I'm expected to do that, how can you not expect me to be able to walk the streets of my own village?" "But Naruto." "Mom, there's always going to be danger, but I really am ready now. Please trust in me." And suddenly she was weeping and holding him tight. "Oh my little baby. Oh my little Naruto-kun. Mom, please don't cry. It's all right, I swear. I'll keep my radio with me and you know if anything ever happens I'll call you." I know that Naruto-kun I do. She slowly let go of him and wiped her eyes. It's just hard for a mother to let go. She gave him a little smile. But you really are an adult now and you're becoming a man. All right Naruto-kun, no more escorting you, but promise me you will call me if anything happens. I promise mom. XXXXXXXXXXX. A little over 2 hours later, as Team 7 was sitting around the kitchen having cookies, going over contingencies, and making plans, Kakashi walked in. They quickly covered up the notes they'd been making and stood up. Hey Nissan, want some cookies? Kakashi shook his head and chuckled. You know Naruto, it's been quite a while since I've been stood up. Naruto shrugged. If you were going to be on time we'd have waited. Well, I would have been on time, but there was this little old lady who needed to cross several streets, you see. Hinata chuckled, Kiba stared at him, and Naruto frowned. Kakashi Nissan, why do you bother lying when it's obvious you're lying? Underneath his mask Kakashi smiled. Because when I do tell you a believable lie it'll be harder for you to spot it. He looked over the three of them. Well, now I've met you all before, but let's start out with some introductions anyway, just to break the ice. Will you go first, Kakashi-sensei, and show us what you mean? Hinata asked. Sure, he answered cheerfully. My name is Hitaki Kakashi. I have lots of likes and dislikes. My goals really aren't any of your concern. What was that? Kiba complained. The only thing we found out was your name. Yes. He smiled beneath his mask. Why don't you go next? Fine, my name is Inuzuka Kiba. What I like best in this whole world is my dog Orochimaru. The small dog on his head immediately began to bark. I also really like being a part of this new pack. I hate cats and any food I can't chew. My goal is to be a great ninja and help my pack succeed. All right, good, now how about the little lady? She felt completely comfortable and confident. I am Hyuga Hinata. I like healing people, pressing flowers, and being with Naruto-kun. I dislike bullies and people who hate others for no reason. I have 2 goals. I want to be a great medic nin like Tsunade. She looked over at Naruto and smiled at him. I also want to be the wife of the Rokudime Hokage. Wife? Naruto said a bit nervously. Kiba began laughing. Hey Naruto, you better be serious about becoming Hokage or you're going to lose your girl. Kakashi couldn't help but laugh seeing Naruto's distress. And now you. I'm not telling you my name since you already know it. I like my mom, Hinata-chan, and my annoying older brother. Kakashi smiled. I dislike bullies, assassins, and arrogant bastards who think they're superior because of a stupid bloodline. I have only one goal in life. That is to be the greatest Hokage ever. Kakashi nodded. Well, I can honestly say I look forward to being sensei to such an interesting bunch. If you can pass my test. Otherwise you'll be going back to the academy. He sat back and waited for the explosion. Whenever he mentioned a test they always went crazy. But to his disappointment the 3 of them just calmly stared at him. Naruto-kun has already told us about the test. Hinata said. Yeah, he also said you would try to psyche us out by telling us about the 66% failure rate and the fact you've failed all 5 teams you've had. Kiba said. Naruto suddenly slammed both hands down on the table and glared at his older brother. I say bring it on. Naruto shouted. We don't care about the odds or about other teams. Me, Hinata-chan, and Kiba-kun are going to be a great team. Whatever the test is we're passing it no matter what. Kiba suddenly slammed his hands down as well. Damn straight. This team is the best. There's no way the 3 of us can lose. Orochimaru barked loudly showing his support. Hinata nodded. I agree with Naruto-kun and Kiba-kun. We will pass your test. Kakashi was amazed to find himself facing such a strong united front. Naruto and Kiba were glaring at him and Hinata was looking at him calmly but with determination. They were all unified against him. They already get it. They already understand about teamwork. Maybe I should just pass them right now. He thought about it and chuckled. Nah. Well, I'm glad to hear such enthusiasm. We'll just have to see how much enthusiasm you have after the test. He reached into a pocket and pulled out 3 sheets of paper, handing them out. Meet me at Training Ground 7 tomorrow at 8 a.m. and don't have any breakfast. Why not? Naruto asked suspiciously. Kakashi smiled. Because if you do you'll end up throwing up. He began to leave. I'll see you tomorrow, kids. Once he was gone Naruto looked at his 2 teammates. All right, let's meet here tomorrow at 7:30. We'll have a big team breakfast and go over a few things. We'll get to the training ground by 9:30. But Naruto-kun, Kakashi-sensei said we had to be there by 8 and not to have breakfast. He sighed. I know what he said, Hinata-chan. But I know him. He won't be there before 10, trust me. And if he was really worried about us throwing up, he have told us we needed a really big breakfast. Great, so we can't trust our sensei? Kiba asked. Once we pass this test we'll be able to trust him. But right now his mission is to try and weed us out. He pulled his notes back out. Let's keep working. Anyone familiar with Training Ground 7? I've been there a couple times. Kiba spoke. It's heavily forested with lots of underbrush. Naruto frowned. I'll bet whatever he has in mind will involve ambushes. He chuckled nastily. Too bad for him, our squad has the Byakugan and an Inuzuka's sense of smell. Now what I think we need to work on next. They stayed until the early evening coming up with scenarios and possibilities and imagining possible replies. Naruto did everything he could think of to get his team ready. XXXXXXXXXX. At 10 the next morning, Kakashi showed carrying a large alarm clock under his arm. His 3 students were patiently waiting under a tree's shade. Hello everyone. I hope I haven't kept you waiting long. Kiba shrugged. Not really, we've only been here about half an hour. Kakashi's sweat dropped. Oh, okay. Well, did you all remember to not have breakfast this morning? Actually, Kakashi-sensei Kushina was nice enough to make us a really big team breakfast. Naruto insisted we all eat this morning. Hinata said. Kakashi sent his smiling little brother a flat look. You know, Naruto, I think you being here provides an unfair advantage. Naruto just widened his smile. When going on a mission or into battle, a ninja should use every possible advantage. There is no such thing as an unfair advantage if it aids in completion of the mission. That's the 14th ninja rule. Kakashi just shook his head and put down the alarm clock. I've set this for noon. You have 2 hours to successfully complete your assignment. And what is that? Naruto asked. Smiling, Kakashi held out a pair of small bells. They jingled softly in the breeze. It's very simple really. All you have to do to pass is take these bells from my belt. Anyone who fails to get a bell before noon fails the test and is headed back to the academy and to disgrace. In addition, whoever fails gets tied to one of those posts over there. He frowned. I was going to tell you that whoever got tied wouldn't get to eat lunch, but that seems superfluous now. Hinata noticed something. Pardon me, Kakashi-sensei, but I only see 2 bells. Good eyes, Hinata. There are only 2 bells, which means of course that only 2 of you can pass this exam. One of you is headed back to the academy no matter what. What? Naruto screamed. That's not possible. There's no such thing as a 2-man genin squad. Kakashi laughed and shook his head. Of course there is, Naruto. There are also 4-man squads, and on occasion a jonin will go out with an apprentice. Naruto frowned. I've never heard of any such thing. Naruto, do you really believe that you know everything? Kakashi said reasonably. Did you ever ask me or Kushina if squads could only have 3 members? 3 is considered the ideal number with a sensei, but it certainly isn't mandatory. In any case, if 2 of you pass this and another team has only 1 person pass, they'll simply form a new 3-man squad. Oh crap, I never thought of that. Naruto felt his stomach turn to lead. He turned to look at his 2 teammates and saw the same panic in their eyes. Kakashi-sensei, this is not fair. You are not giving us a chance to stay together as a 3-man squad. Hinata protested. Kakashi shrugged. I'm sorry, Hinata, but you should already know that there is nothing fair in either life or in being shinobi. Under the mask he smiled. One little lie had completely shattered the unity they'd shown him yesterday. Now let's see how strong their teamwork is when they're really up against it. Hinata looked at the 2 boys. What are we going to? She asked. Naruto took a deep breath and came to the only decision he could. We're going to get those bells, Hinata-chan. And we're going to do it as a team just like we planned. Then you and Kiba will each get a bell. He turned to face Kakashi and crossed his arms over his chest. I'll go back to the academy. Naruto-kun, no. What about your dream to be Hokage? He smiled at her reassuringly. I'm still going to be Hokage, Hinata-chan. I'll just have to wait an extra year to get started, that's all. No, Naruto-kun. She shook her head. Of all of us, you're the best and most deserving. She took a deep breath. I'll go back. No, Hinata-chan. Naruto stated. Hey, what's wrong with you 2 bakas? Kiba grinned. Like I'm really going to let you two lovebirds be apart. Except for Shika, I was the worst in our class. I'll go back. Hey, who knows, maybe I'll even learn something this time. No. It's my responsibility to get the two of you through. Naruto declared. Who says? Kiba demanded. Naruto-kun, I won't let you fail no matter what. Hinata said with a tearful heart. She wanted to be with him, but she wanted him to succeed and move towards his dream more. Kakashi coughed and got their attention. This is very touching, but please stop and think about it. Whoever fails will not be allowed to try out again for a year. Are you really willing to spend an extra year in the academy just to help others? Naruto looked at him and frowned. Those who violate the rules and fail to follow orders are lower than garbage. Those who do not care for and support their fellows are lower than that. You taught me that, Nisan. When I am Hokage, I will be ready to lay down my life to protect the people of this village. What sort of ninja would I be if I weren't willing to sacrifice myself to help my teammates? He shook his head. I'll always watch out for the people who depend on me no matter what. Hinata nodded proudly. I feel the same way, Naruto-kun. Kiba put a hand on Naruto's shoulder. Every Inuzuka understands that you must work for the good of the pack. Kakashi eyed them carefully. So each of you is ready to sacrifice yourself for the good of your teammates. He watched all three of them nod. Finally. Well then, I guess there's just one more thing to say. He paused dramatically. Then stuck his thumb into the air. You all pass. What? Naruto said. Excuse me. Hinata said. Huh. Kiba said. Kakashi smiled at them. I said you all passed. But what about the bell test? Hinata asked, confused. The point of the bell test was never to see if you could actually acquire the bells. It was to see if you would be willing to sacrifice your individual wants for the greater good and for your fellows. You've clearly shown me that you all understand about caring and watching out for your teammates. So there's no point in having the test. Wait a minute, that was it. All we had to do was show you we would work together. Naruto asked. That's right. Kakashi nodded. Then why did you fail you previous 5 teams? Kakashi sighed. Because Naruto, none of them ever showed themselves willing to sacrifice themselves for others. There are far too many veteran ninjas who have trouble with that concept. Never find ninjas fresh out of the academy. Believe me, Naruto, you and your teammates really are something special. With a huge grin he looked to Hinata and Kiba. Yeah, we are. Kiba laughed. Huh. The man knows talent when he sees it. Hinata just stood there and smiled. Happy and relieved to know that they would get to stay together and be a team. Alright, Team 7, the exercise is now complete. Let's head back. Oh, and Naruto, by the way, you were right. Huh, about what? There are no 2-man genin squads. Huh. I knew it. Naruto proclaimed. Kakashi smiled. No you didn't, which is why you were so panicked. He chuckled. I told you it would be hard for you to spot my lies. They headed back as official genin. Team 7 was officially born. Chapter 18. Orochimaru barked and was in savage pursuit. The poor cat was running for his life. Ahead of the cat a young girl knelt down and held out her arms. Come here, kitty, Hinata said gently. The cat leapt into her arms and she took hold of him. She quickly had the cat relaxed and purring. She switched on her radio communicator. This is Hinata, target has been acquired. Please confirm that the target has a rib in the right ear. That says, Tiger. Kakashi's voice came over the line. Confirm, team leader. Hinata replied. Good job, team. Kakashi said happily. Mission, find the missing pet, is complete. As Orochimaru returned to the top of his master's head, he was looking at the cat in disgust. I can't believe I just wasted an hour of my life finding a cat. Kiba complained. Hinata frowned at him as she continued to pet the feline in her arms. Oh, be nice, Kiba. The poor cat hasn't done anything to you. He shook his head. We used to chase Gamakichi like this for fun. And this is supposed to be a mission. It's a D-rank mission, Kiba. Kakashi sighed and tried to explain. You are all brand new genin. These kinds of missions are where you get the experience necessary to move on to bigger and better things. Kiba grumbled but didn't say anything more. Come on, let's get back to the tower and report in. XXXXXXXXXX. At the tower they returned poor Tiger to his owner, the fire daimyo's wife. Seeing her crush the poor animal in a hug, even Kiba felt a little sympathy. It being a slow day, the Hokage was actually among those handing out assignments. Since it was summer, Iruka was also temporarily assigned there. Tsunade smiled at them. Another successful mission, your team is ripping through them at 2 or 3 a day. Now let's see, I'll give you a choice for your next D rank. You can help paint a house, do some weeding, or do some babysitting. No way. None of the above. I didn't train to be a ninja so I could rescue cats and babysit. I want a real mission. Kiba shouted. Tsunade glared at him and felt a vein throb in her head. What was that? I said I want a real mission. Something that actually involves ninja skills. Kiba continued to shout, not feeling intimidated in the least by the Hokages glaring at him. Don't be ridiculous. Iruka spoke up. You're all brand new genin, you can't possibly hope to do anything more than D-rank missions for now. For how long? Kiba whined. We've been doing D ranks for a whole month. Kakashi knocked him on the head. Kiba settled down. You can't just yell at the Hokage like that because you don't like your assignments. Kiba rubbed his head and glared at his sensei. Oh come on Kakashi-sensei. We're being wasted on these stupid jobs. We're ready to do a lot more. He looked over to his friend. Come on Naruto, back me up here. Naruto shook his head. Kiba, we're ninjas, it's our duty is to fulfill whatever mission we're assigned. Kiba frowned. Oh come on. You don't think we're ready to step up? Naruto frowned. Well, Tsunade looked at him. Tell me your opinion Naruto. He looked at her. Well Hokage-sama, he never called her godmother in the tower. While I am happy to take care of any mission assigned to me, I do agree with Kiba that we can do more. Ha! Kiba shouted. Kakashi bopped him on the head again. Tsunade leaned back in her chair and smiled. You are still raw genin. Why exactly should I assign you a higher ranked mission? Especially since I have yet to assign one to any of the other new genin squads. Naruto shrugged. Because we're the best and we're ready. He stated flatly. We have a lot of talent on this squad and our work ethic can't be touched. We should be the first of the new squads to get a higher ranked mission. Tsunade grinned. My, but you do have a high opinion of yourself Naruto. He gave her a bit of a smile. Well, I'm not the only one. My godmother thinks pretty highly of me too, in fact she thinks I'll be Hokage one day. Tsunade chuckled. Yes, I know she does. She looked over the members of Team 7 again and glanced down at her paperwork. Alright, I'll give you something that's a little more challenging. Hinata was shocked. Kiba's tantrum actually worked. Alright. Kiba jumped up. Finally a real mission. Kakashi sighed. Kiba, please quiet down, you do want to hear what this mission will be, don't you? Oh, sorry. He smiled and stopped making so much noise. Tsunade shook her head. You will be escorting a bridge builder to his home in the land of waves. We're going to a foreign country. All right, Kiba said. Naruto didn't say anything but he smiled and felt very excited. I'll have your client brought out so you can meet him. In short order, a fat, somewhat disheveled, old man with a bottle of beer in his hand entered the room. He looked over the squad and frowned. What's going on here? They look like a bunch of wet-nosed brats. Especially the dumb-looking one with the dog on his head. What? Kiba roared. I'll kill him. Fortunately Kakashi had a hold of him. No Kiba, no killing the client. The old man took a long sip of his beer. I am Tazuna, a bridge builder of ultimate renown. Until I'm safely back in my own country where I'll be completing my next bridge, you'll all be expected to protect me, even at the cost of your own lives. Geez, what a pleasant guy. Naruto said under his breath. XXXXXXXXXX. At 8 a.m. the next morning Team 7 assembled at the gate with their client. Tazuna was looking over the ninjas and not feeling a world of confidence. Am I really expected to put my life in the hands of children? He complained. Kakashi sighed. This would be a very long mission. There is really no need for concern, they are all fine ninjas and I am an elite ninja and will be accompanying you as well. He took a sip of beer. My confidence in underwhelmed. What is this jerk's problem? Kiba said quietly. Maybe he is just under a lot of stress. Hinata offered. Yeah, and maybe he's just a jerk. Kiba offered. Naruto sighed. Don't worry about it Kiba, it's our first real mission. Try and enjoy it. Kiba gave him a look that questioned his sanity. Naruto didn't care. Even if the client was a jerk and the mission was a boring escort, he was finally out of the village. He was finally doing something. He felt a sense of real freedom. He was finally taking his fate into his own hands. XXXXXXXXXX. Kushina stood near the gate and watched her son go. Even though she knew it was foolish, she had to fight down the urge to go after him. Are you alright? Kushina looked behind her to see Tsunade smiling. Oh, I'm fine. It's just. Tsunade nodded. I know, but you knew this day would come. Kushina nodded. Of course, but it's still very hard to let him go off on his own. He's not alone, you know. He has Kakashi and his teammates with him. And even if he were on his own, you have done an amazing job training him. I'd say he's already a match for half the Jonins in this village. I know that, but I can't help but worry about him now that he's somewhere I can't reach. She sighed. Even with the servants, the house is going to seem very lonely without him there. Tsunade put a comforting hand on her friend's shoulder. Why don't you come and have dinner with me and Shizune tonight at the Hokage mansion? Kushina thought about that a moment and nodded. She would appreciate the company. Anyway, it's a simple low-priority C rank, just something to give them a little bit of experience. I'm sure they'll have an easy time. Tsunade reassured. XXXXXXXXXX. As they walked along the road, the three genins had taken the lead and were together as a group about 15 feet ahead of Tazuna. Kakashi was bringing up the rear about 10 feet behind the client. As they walked along, Kiba was watching Orochimaru chase a butterfly, and both Naruto and Hinata were enjoying the scenery. As they walked, he noticed a puddle of water in the middle of the road. He knew it hadn't rained in a few weeks. I'm going to talk to Nissen for a second. Hinata and Kiba both simply nodded. He dropped back to where Kakashi was. He was next to Kakashi as he approached the water puddle. You noticed the puddle? Kakashi said quietly. Yeah, he replied just as quietly. Ambush. Probably. Warn the others and be ready. Nodding, Naruto half walked, half jogged back to Kiba and Hinata, trying very hard not to look as though he were alert. Kiba, Hinata, he said in a whisper. They both gave him their attention. Act casually, but were about to be attacked. They both stiffened a bit but didn't anything more. Hinata-chan, activate your bloodline. She gave the barest of nods. Byakugan. She used her bloodline to search the area. There are two behind Kakashi. In an instant his sword was in his hand and he had pivoted around and was rushing towards Kakashi. Kiba, with me. Hinata, cover the client. Tazuna froze as the three children who had been walking in front of him suddenly turned and were rushing towards him. His eyes were drawn to the blond boy with the red and black clothes. He had a sword in his hand. He saw the boy's face for just a second before he was past. But that one look was enough to freeze his spine. The little girl stopped in front of him and was in some sort of weird stance. It was only as he turned around to watch the boys rush past that he suddenly saw two foreign ninja about to rip Kakashi apart. That was what Naruto saw as well. Two ninjas with respirators, each wearing a gloved metal claw with a nasty barbed chain running between. They had already wrapped the chain around him, and before Naruto could get there he saw his Nissen torn apart. Nissen! Naruto howled. Kakashi! Kiba cried out. The two clawed ninjas wasted no time and rushed towards them. Take the one on the right. Naruto ordered as he bore down on the other one. Even as furious as he was, he still felt his mind do an evaluation on the choice of weapons. He decided that their choice was stupid. A claw and a chain were no match for a good sword. As the enemy closed on him, he quickly dropped the sword low in front of him. And when he was on top of his opponent, he drove his sword straight up and out in one smooth motion. He didn't miss. From the man's groin clean up to his neck, his katana bit deep. The enemy ninja was gutted like a fish. His chest showered out blood and man fell to the ground, flapping about for a bit before he was still. It all took just a few seconds. With one enemy down, he quickly pulled his sword back into the ready position and turned to his right. He saw Kiba nail the other one with his fang over fang technique. He hit his opponent square in the chest and he was down on the ground. Naruto rushed over to his last enemy's side and raised his sword over his head, ready for another killing blow. Naruto, stop. Naruto froze and looked behind him. Kakashi Nissen. Kakashi was standing just a few feet behind him. But Naruto looked to where Kakashi's body had been. There he saw a roughly severed log. Oh, you used a substitution. His relief at his Nissen's survival was quickly replaced by anger. Why did you let us think they'd killed you? Sorry about that, but I thought it would give me a good chance to evaluate you all in real combat situation. Are any of you hurt? Everyone shook their heads. You all did excellently. Hinata, good job covering and protecting the client. Kiba, excellent attack, it was very effective. And Naruto, I couldn't have done better. He smiled and nodded. Kakashi had a way with words. Thanks Nissen. But Naruto, from now on don't call me that when we're in the field. I'm fine with it when we're training or at home. But on missions call me sensei or just plain Kakashi. Why? You give an enemy an advantage. If they hear you call me that they're likely to think we have a special bond and change tactics accordingly. Let's not give our enemies any more information than we need to. Now then, he picked up the survivor. I'm going to have a little chat with our friend here. He lifted the survivor over his shoulder and carried him into the woods to chat. Naruto calmly took out a rag and began wiping off his blade. He slowly became aware that all three people still there were staring at him. You killed that man, Tsunade said in a small voice. Naruto looked up from his cleaning and smiled at the old drunk. Still think we're just a bunch of wet-nosed brats. Tsunade quickly shook his head and took several steps away from him. Hinata and Kiba were both looking at him oddly. Naruto let out a sigh. This is the first time you've seen someone killed, isn't it? Kiba and Hinata both nodded. Are you all right, Naruto-kun? Hinata asked worriedly. He smiled and nodded. This isn't the first time for me, remember. This is the 8th person and 4th ninja I've killed. Do you feel all right? Are you upset or bothered? She asked. Naruto shook his head. I'm fine, Hinata-chan. I've learned to turn my feelings off when I kill. You turn your feelings off? She asked, sounding a little stunned. He looked at her seriously. The very first time I killed Hinata-chan was that time at the academy. I killed a Chunin and 4 villagers. Looking at what I had done to those men tore me up inside. My mom told me that the only way to be able to kill and not go insane was to turn your heart off at those times and stop feeling. Naruto, that sounds horrible. He nodded. That's just what I said to my mom. But it's the only way to be able to do it and not go insane. We're ninjas and we have to kill sometimes, there is no changing that. But we can still be human and we can still feel, just not at those moments. For those moments we have to stop being human and be only shinobi. Hinata slowly nodded. She knew her Naruto-kun had a kind and loving heart. She could never have loved him the way she did if he hadn't. But she had just witnessed another side of him. It was a hard and ugly side, but she understood that it was something every ninja had to have in order to survive. She suddenly wondered if she had it as well somewhere inside. XXXXXXXXXXX. Kakashi came out of the woods about 15 minutes later. I've tied our friend up to a tree. I'll send a message back to Konoha and have the Anbu pick him up. He now turned to Tsunade and the frosty look he gave him made the old man shiver a bit. As I suspected, those ninjas were here for you. You were their target. He claimed not to know the reason why he was hired. But I suspect that you do. I don't know what you're talking about. Then let me make things clear for you. Kakashi spoke with a harsh tone. I believe you were being deliberately deceitful when you put in your request for this mission. This mission was assigned a C rank because you informed us you were concerned about ordinary bandits and criminals. Had we known you were in danger from other ninja, we would have assigned it a B rank or higher, and a much more veteran squad would have been assigned to you. As it is, you have deliberately lied to me and my team, and what is worse, to the Hokage. Therefore I am terminating our contract with you and returning my team to Konoha. You can't do that, Tsunade exclaimed. Oh, I most certainly can. Willful deceit is grounds for terminating any contract with my village. As my squad's sensei, I am responsible for their lives and well-being. I am not about to put them in a situation they aren't ready for. If you break our contract, I'll sue your village. Kakashi shrugged. Feel free. All right, Team 7, we're going back to the village. Wait, Tsunade shouted, truly panicked. If you go, I'm a dead man. Kakashi gave the man a very flat stare. I'll give you one chance to explain yourself. I warn you, if you leave anything out, then I will terminate the mission. Tsunade nodded. I understand. You're right, I did know there'd be ninja after me. Baka, why didn't you tell us that? Kiba demanded. Tsunade sighed. Because if I had, your Hokage would have assigned it a B rank and I simply couldn't afford that. The Land of Waves is a poor country and I simply don't have the funds available. So instead you ask a genin squad fresh from the academy to do a job that should be handled by a team of jonin and chunin. Kakashi inquired. I am sorry about doing that, but I am desperate. A real scary man wants me dead. And who is this scary man? Kakashi asked. You've probably heard of him. He's a billionaire in the field of marine transportation. His name is Gato. Wait a second, you mean the shipping and transportation magnate? That Gato. They say he's one of the richest men in the world. Oh, he is. Tsunade nodded in disgust. He is also a murderous criminal who will break any law to turn a profit. He came to my country a year ago under the guise of a business venture. Before long a horde of criminals descended on us to enforce Gato's will. By fair means and foul he quickly gained a monopoly on all transportation in Wave Country. For an island nation, marine transport is our life's blood. He swiftly destroyed our economy and drained off all the wealth of the land. The only thing he has to fear is the completion of the bridge I have been working on for some time. I see, Hinata spoke up. And as the architect of the bridge and the overseer of its construction, you Tsunade-san are very much in his way. Naruto nodded. That means the ninja who attacked you were working for Gato. Kiba nodded and tried desperately to keep up with the conversation. So that's the whole truth. Gato wants me dead to prevent completion of the bridge. So are you still going to abandon me to my fate and condemn all of Wave Country to that monster's control? Kakashi let out a deep sigh. Tsunade, I sympathize with your situation, I really do. But the fact is my squad is just not ready for this sort of mission. Who says? Kiba spoke out. Kakashi-sensei, we can definitely do this. I mean, what's the other choice? Run home with our tail between our legs. His grimace showed what he thought of that idea. Kiba, there is no disgrace in withdrawing when the situation is more than you can handle. It's called a tactical retreat. Kakashi stated. I agree with Kiba. Naruto said firmly. I say we need to continue with this mission. Kakashi frowned. This isn't a game, Naruto. Naruto deliberately looked over at the body that was still lying in the middle of the road. With the summer heat it was already starting to attract flies. I know that sensei. But like Kiba said, who says we're not ready? We dealt with these too easily and that was without your active participation. Why aren't we strong enough to continue? Naruto, these two were chunin. I could have dealt with them by myself. The next attack will either involve greater numbers or a jonin or even a few jonin. Do you feel up to that? He nodded, confidence never wavering. Yes, I do. I think we have an amazing team and I think Team 7 can do whatever it has to. Besides, Tsunade and the people in Wave Country need our help. Kakashi sighed. They're not even paying for the amount of help they need. Is it just about the money then? Naruto frowned. Because I thought being a ninja was about helping people who need your help. It's about helping your village and carrying out the missions your village assigns you. Kakashi clarified. Well, we have a mission from our village. And even if it has been given the wrong ranking, I think it's worth doing. I say we help Tsunade and the people in Wave Country. Hell yeah, Kiba agreed. Come on Kakashi-sensei, how can we abandon them now that we know what they're facing? Kakashi-sensei, I also want to continue this mission. Hinata stepped forward. I agree with Naruto-kun and Kiba-kun, this mission is truly worth carrying out. Kakashi looked at his three students. Damn it, they were earnest. I am going to regret this. He slowly nodded his agreement. All right, if you're all willing to continue in the face of the danger, we'll push on. XXXXXXXXXXX. The little man was yelling and complaining and almost hysterical that the demon brothers had failed. The ninja shook his head. Why did money have to be so damn important? If the world worked properly, skill and power would be the only things that mattered. But no, money mattered too. With enough money he could buy enough supporters to pursue his dream again. I will be the Mizuki one day. I will return to the village hidden in the mist and have my revenge. The little man glowered at him. And now he's hired ninjas to protect him, you damn fool. With ease he brought his massive sword to the man's throat. Watch your damn mouth. Who do you think you're talking to? I am Momochi Zabuza, the demon of the mist. I will take the hit myself and eliminate this man that worries you so much. Then you will pay me what you owe me. Fine, the little man said and looked relieved as the sword was pulled away. But you had better not fail. The ninja laughed. When it came to killing he never failed. Chapter 19. They arrived in Wave Country in a small boat. Despite now being on a serious mission, Naruto was loving it. He found he really enjoyed traveling and seeing new things. He had never been outside of Fire Country, never been on a boat before, never seen the ocean before. This mission was just one new experience after another. Once they had landed, they began the walk towards Tsunade's home. Kakashi gathered his team together around him before they set off. He spoke quietly so as not to alarm Tsunade. It's extremely likely we'll be attacked again on the way to Tsunade's home. We can also expect the next attack to be much more serious than the previous one. Kiba and Hinata, I want you to use your abilities to keep a careful watch out for any surprises." They both nodded. "Naruto, I want you stay right beside Tsunade the entire time, even if we are attacked. His safety is your responsibility, understand?" Naruto nodded. "Yes Kakashi ni, Kakashi-sensei. Damn, it's going to take me a while to get used to that. Remember, an attack may come at any time from any direction. Stay alert and be ready for anything." On that cheerful note they headed out. Kiba and Hinata walked up front while Kakashi was the rear guard. Naruto walked beside Tsunade. "You know I never thanked you for speaking up, for continuing to help me. I don't think your sensei would have agreed if you hadn't. I really do appreciate it." Naruto smiled at him. "You're very welcome. I happen to believe that people with power should try and help others. What this Gato has done is despicable and needs to be stopped." Tsunade eyed the boy carefully. "You know, you seem like a very fine young man. Talking to you I can tell you have a good heart." Naruto nodded. "Thanks." Tsunade hesitated to continue. "Tell me though, how can someone like you kill so easily? I saw what you did with your sword. And once it was done you didn't seem to care." Naruto sent the man a serious look. "Once he was dead I didn't care about him. I hit the target and looked for other targets." Tsunade stared. His mouth was a bit dry and he wished he had a beer with him. How can you be so idealistic one moment and so cold-blooded the next?" Naruto gave him a grin. "Simple, I'm a ninja." Tsunade didn't ask any more questions. 10 minutes later Kiba picked something up on the wind. He immediately put a fist up signaling a halt. Kakashi was by his side and they were talking quietly. Naruto remained by Tsunade. "I've got 2 cents, they're both still faint, maybe a mile or so up ahead." Kiba explained. "Whoever they are, they didn't use this road to get there, not from this direction at least." Kakashi nodded. Hinata nodded understanding. Byakugan. With her bloodline she began searching ahead of them. It took her a moment to spot them. "I've found them. There are 2 of them standing in a tree talking. One is an adult with bandaged over his mouth and a huge sword on his back. The other one is smaller, probably near our age and wearing a mask like a hunter ninja. They're both definitely ninjas and they seem to be mist ninjas." Kakashi nodded and was very glad for his team's abilities. "Are there any other ninja in the area?" Hinata searched for another couple minutes. "No, just those 2. All right, come with me." He led them to where Tsunade and Naruto were waiting. "There looks to be an ambush lying up ahead. Tsunade, you need to be ready in case you have to run." Naruto, whatever happens stay with Tsunade. Naruto nodded. "If we know they're waiting for us, why are we continuing up the road?" Tsunade asked. Kakashi smiled. "Simple, because even if we avoid them they aren't going to simply go away. If we can sneak you past them they would still remain a threat and might attack us later when we aren't ready for it. The best option is to eliminate the threat now." "All right, but why do I have to come with you?" Tsunade whined. "Because I am not splitting my squad up while in enemy territory facing an unknown force." Kakashi shrugged. "If you feel safe waiting here for us while we fight, that's fine. But if some thugs show up looking for you, you're on your own. You know you're not very good at setting a man's mind at ease. My job is to protect you, not make you feel comfortable. So do you want to come with us or wait here?" Tsunade sighed. It was no fun having to choose the lesser evil. "I'll come with you. XXXXXXXXXX." Zabuza was well hidden as the party came around a bend in the road. He quickly looked them over. His first impression was that the demon brothers were highly overrated. They'd been beaten by a single ninja and 3 children. Haku was a special exception. But then he took a closer look at the only real ninja. "Well, I'll be," he whispered. Kakashi of the Sharingan Eye. His opinion of the demon brothers was restored. For whatever that was worth. "Haku." "Yes, Zabuza-sama," the boy answered in a low whisper. "This enemy is more dangerous than any you have ever faced. I want you to remain hidden, do you understand?" He bowed his masked head. "Yes, sir." Beneath the bandages Zabuza smiled. "Watch closely, this should be quite an interesting fight." Pulling out his massive blade he got ready. XXXXXXXXXXX. "Everyone take cover." Kakashi shouted as a huge blade came spinning through the air. Everyone ducked and Naruto pushed Tsunade down to the ground. When they looked up, the blade was embedded in the trunk of a tree. And standing on the blade's cumbersome handle was a ninja. Kakashi recognized him immediately, as did Naruto, from the bingo book. Well, if it isn't Momochi Zabuza, the kid who ran off and left the land of the mists. Hey, always good to be so famous. Kakashi the copy ninja, if it wouldn't be too much trouble could you hand over the old man? Sorry I can't do that. He pulled up his Hitai-Ite to reveal his Sharingan eye. Didn't think you would, just common courtesy to a fellow professional. But if you won't hand him over to me that means I'll have to kill you. Grabbing his sword he disappeared. Manji battle formation. Protect Tsunade. This enemy is on a whole other level than anything you've faced before. The three genin formed a triangle around their client. Naruto had his sword out, Kiba a kunai, while Hinata preferred to wait in her fighting stance without a weapon. As they all watched, a thick fog rose up all around them. All of you keep alert. Zabuza is a master of the silent kill. Letting your guard down around him means a one-way trip to the next life. As the fog thickened, an amused voice seemed to call out from all directions. There are 8 targets. Throat, spinal column, lungs, liver, the jugular vein, the subclavian artery, heart, and kidney, so many choices, what vital vulnerable place shall I choose? Ha, ha, and then without warning he landed in the middle of their formation. Before Kakashi or any of the others could act, he swung his sword and neatly cut into Tsunade's neck. Only to have him disappear in a puff of smoke. What? The three genin launched themselves at him without concern. Being so close they were able to get a hold of his arms and delay him just a moment. Instantly half a dozen kunai came out of the bushes and struck Zabuza in the chest. His form immediately became water and splashed down on the ground. Somewhere from the trees above, force and bonds came down and struck each of the ninjas still there. Each disappeared in a puff of smoke. XXXXXXXXXX. Damn it. Kakashi muttered softly. I knew it wouldn't be that easy as soon as I saw who it was. They were momentarily in a stalemate as both his team and Zabuza and his partner were hidden. But he had an ace to play. Hinata. She pointed to a tree about 50 yards away. They are both up there. She whispered. He nodded and turned to Naruto. Can you make me about 20 shadow clones? Naruto quickly nodded and performed the jutsu. Team 7 had some truly incredible assets: Byakugan, shadow clones, Sharingan, Rasengan, Chidori, summoning, frogs and dogs, and tracking ability. Kakashi began to realize that this squad had the potential to not be just good but truly great, maybe even legendary. But first they needed to survive this fight. He hadn't exposed his Sharingan yet. He knew very well the strict limit of his own body when using it. He lifted his Hitai-Ite and exposed it now. Time to put an end to this fight into the demon of the mist. XXXXXXXXXXX. He is good. His team was never even exposed. Zabuza said softly. Zabuza-sama, I do not believe I have ever heard you speak of someone with such respect before. Haku said. Kakashi is an enemy that deserves to be respected. And as he watched 20 clones of the same blonde ninja launch themselves out of the bushes towards their hiding spot. Stay hidden. Zabuza leapt away towards the nearby river, thinking it would be the spot to give him the greatest advantage. From his hiding spot, Haku watched carefully. Along with the many clones of the blonde boy, he saw Kakashi, the girl, and the dark-haired boy emerge and close in on Zabuza as he was quickly dispatching the clones. Haku noted that their target had not appeared. Could he be in those bushes where they were hiding? Tsunade was fated to die, for that was the will of Zabuza-sama, but no one else had to. If Tsunade died right now, Zabuza would break off and end the battle. Zabuza was not one for unnecessary risks once the mission was accomplished. Haku decided to go ahead and take a look in those bushes. With a hand sign he teleported. XXXXXXXXXXX. There was too much vegetation between where they were and the river for either Naruto or Tsunade to get a good look at the battle. But Naruto had another way of knowing what was going on. Damn, Naruto muttered beneath his breath. He really is good. What, can you see something? Tsunade asked, worried. In a way. When my clones are destroyed I get their memories. And the last one of my clones just got wiped out. I managed to do him a little damage, but now it's up to Kakashi and the others. Then he felt a chakra signature right above him. Get down. Naruto leapt onto a surprised Tsunade and pushed him to the ground. As he did so, he was struck by a dozen senbons that had been aimed at the bridge builder. Most hit his back and simply bounced off his body armor. A couple hit his unprotected arms and sunk in. The pain was minor and they didn't slow his reaction time any. He reached into a pouch and quickly tossed some kunai where he thought the signature was. A ninja leapt out of the tree and landed about 20 yards away. From the size of him, Naruto guessed he was a kid as well. He had on a mask that covered his whole face and held 3 senbons in each hand. Naruto was swiftly back on his feet with his sword out and standing in front of Tsunade in line between him and his enemy. "Stay down. I will protect you with my life." Tsunade did exactly as he was told. "You are quite skilled. To have blocked my attack as you did was no easy feat." A polite and serene voice spoke. "Thanks." Naruto kept his sword ready and waited. "Are you going to come on in and fight me?" "No." Haku fired off the 6 senbons in hand. Seeing where they were coming from, Naruto seemed to have no difficulty in blocking them with his sword. "You really are skilled. Thank you, but if you want to really see what I can do with this sword, why don't you come a bit closer?" "I think not. Given the fact you wear a sword, you are almost certainly a close combat specialist, as is my master. I likely would be no match for you in close quarters. Fortunately, I do not need to get near you to fight you." Naruto smiled. "Neither do I." With a quick motion he drove his sword into the soft earth to free up his hands. Shadow clone technique. The instant the jutsu was done, he snatched his sword back up again. 15 clones came into existence. At that moment Naruto suddenly realized something. None of his clones had a sword. When he'd performed the jutsu, his sword hadn't been in his possession, so of course the clones had been created with nothing more lethal than kunai on them. He'd never thought that in the heat of battle, once his sword was drawn, he wouldn't have time to reholster it in order to perform a jutsu. If it had blood on it, of course. He made a mental note to talk to his mom about getting a wakizashi. In any case, the clones all took out kunai and launched themselves at the enemy. Naruto's opponent never even bothered to take a step. He calmly stood there and tossed senbons at the clones. They were all destroyed before any of them could even get close. "Well, that was a waste," he muttered. He nodded grudgingly and even lifted his sword in a quick salute. "You know, you're pretty damn good too." "I thank you." Haku spoke with sincerity. "You are not my enemy and I do not seek to kill you, just as Zabuza-sama does not desire to kill your teammates. But the bridge builder must die. Well, the only way you're killing him is by killing me first." "I see," Haku said calmly. Naruto stood there and waited. His opponent also seemed to be feeling patient. Naruto considered how far away he was and estimated the distance to be 20 yards. "I could cover that in one leap. But he's just standing there like he wants me to rush him. If I do rush him, is there any way he could get to Tsunade before I reach him?" Kakashi's instructions had been for him to remain at Tsunade's side and protect him no matter what. Naruto grimaced and decided he would do just that. Haku eyed his opponent with disappointment hidden by the mask. It seemed the blonde ninja was not going to attack him directly and give him an opening to use his teleportation jutsu. Unfortunately, his only method of long-range attack was senbons, and his foe seemed able to deal with those. "We are in stalemate. He cannot reach me to use his sword. But neither can I get past him to the target so long as he remains where he is." They remained as they were for about 1 minute. The situation was finally resolved when they heard a loud shout. "Zabuza-sama!" Haku performed his teleportation jutsu and disappeared. XXXXXXXXXX. Water-style water dragon missile. Kakashi and Zabuza both cried out in the same instant, unleashing a pair of gigantic dragons to leap out of the river and swiftly annihilate each other. "Damn it," Zabuza muttered. This wasn't going well. To begin with, he had a few wounds on his chest and back from those damn clones and their damn swords. After that, he'd had to deal with Kakashi, who seemed able to read his mind. He had 2 of his brats on the riverbank watching him and backing him up but staying out of the fight. Kakashi was the real problem though. He seemed able to read my mind. Kakashi said. "What? That's impossible. Curse him, he's got that sickeningly evil look in his eye, right? Shut up, you damn parrot." Zabuza began forming a new jutsu. But as he did so, he seemed to see an illusion of himself standing at Kakashi's side. "What the?" Zabuza hesitated. Kakashi did not. Water-style giant waterfall technique. Zabuza cried out as he was caught up in a gigantic cyclone of water and tossed about like a leaf in a storm. He was finally slammed hard into a tree and collapsed to the ground, his back to the tree. Looking up he saw Kakashi land in a tree limb just above him. Can you see the future? Kakashi drew out a kunai and nodded grimly. Yes, and what I see is your death. Kakashi behind you. Hinata cried out. Kakashi leapt away just in time to avoid some senbons. Before Hinata, or Kiba could do a thing, Zabuza's partner landed at his side. Grabbing a hold of him, the new arrival performed a hand sign and they were both gone. Damn it. It was so close. Kakashi-sensei, what can we do? Hinata asked as both she and Kiba arrived at his side. There's nothing we can do now about Zabuza. Let's get back to Naruto and Tsunade. XXXXXXXXXXX. They found Tsunade a bit shaken but otherwise unharmed. Naruto quickly related what had happened to him. You did a good job, Naruto. You did exactly what I told you to. He looked to Kiba and Hinata. You have all done a wonderful job and I am very proud of you. With that he yawned and then collapsed, being caught by Naruto before he hit the ground. Kakashi. Naruto laid him on the ground. Hinata-chan, can you help? She quickly knelt down beside him and performed a diagnostic jutsu. What's wrong with him? Kiba asked worriedly. His vitals are all strong. Hinata said with relief. He seems to just be suffering from physical exhaustion. It's the Sharingan. Naruto said with certainty. Kakashi has told me that because he lacks an Uchiha's body he can only use his Sharingan for so long before it exhausts him. Naruto frowned. Zabuza must have pushed him too hard. He'll be fine, he just needs some rest. He looked to their client. Tsunade, how far is it to your house? About 5 miles. Naruto nodded. Oh, okay, we'll get there in 5 minutes. Tsunade laughed a bit. It felt good to laugh after being so terrified. Maybe we can get there in an hour. Without much thought he cut open his palm, wiped off the blood, and holstered his sword. We're getting there in 5 minutes. Naruto used a tone that said nothing was up for debate. No more walking, we're leaping the rest of the way. Kiba and Hinata both nodded. Leaping? What are you talking about? Tsunade asked. Naruto performed his jutsu and 4 clones came to life. With Kakashi out of action, I'm leading Team 7. And right now I think our best course of action is to get to your house and set up a base camp as fast as possible. So I'll use my clones to carry you and Kakashi as we leap through the trees. Through the trees. 2 of his clones took a hold of Tsunade. Hey, I'm fine with walking. As one they all leapt into the air. Ah. XXXXXXXXXXX. Kakashi opened his eyes. He was inside somewhere on a floor underneath some blankets. Are you all right, teacher? Kakashi looked up to see a fairly attractive woman in her 20s with dark hair. I am fine, he replied weakly. I am Kakashi, by the way. And you are? I am Tsunade, Tsunade's daughter. My father was feeling a bit ill when you all arrived, but he's alive and in one piece. He has told me everything that has happened and I know I owe his life to you and your students. She bowed to him. Please accept my deepest thanks. We are very happy to help. Can you tell me where my students are now? I am right here, Kakashi-sensei. A friendly face came into view. Naruto-kun and Kiba-kun are in the next room getting something to eat. Are you hungry? Yes, Hinata, I am actually, but first could you bring the boys in here? Hi. In short order his 3 students were all kneeling around him. What's the situation? Kakashi asked. Naruto answered. Well, I have 4 of my clones acting as a guard outside the house. Hinata-chan has searched the area for a 1-mile radius and found nothing. Kiba went on a patrol with a couple of my clones to back him up. He found nothing suspicious and no other scents for 3 miles. So for right now I think we're secure. I'll keep some clones to watch all night. Kakashi nodded slightly. Good job, Naruto. It will probably take me about a week to recover my strength. You're in charge until then. Right, Kakashi sensei. What do you want us to do? Well, since you all know the tree climbing and water walking exercises, there's really no special training I can give you while I'm bedridden. Keep Tsunade safe at all costs and try to get in some training when time allows. Kakashi-sensei, Hinata spoke. What about Zabuza and his partner? Zabuza was hit pretty hard by my last jutsu. I'm guessing he's going to need some time to recover as well. If he does show up before I am ready, the most important thing to remember is that for shinobi the one thing important above all else is teamwork. That is where your greatest strength lies. And as one, they all nodded. XXXXXXXXXXX. Haku was sitting by Zabuza's bedside as the door opened. In walked the greasy little man with a pair of samurai who were trying to look mean. I wonder if they understand I could kill them all easily. You've got some nerve showing your face again after such a miserable failure. Demon of the Mist, huh? That's a joke. He signaled for his bodyguards to wait and approached Zabuza's bed. Nothing to say for yourself. He reached for Zabuza's face. Instantly Haku had the man's wrist in his fist and began crushing it. Don't defile Zabuza-sama with your touch. Arg! Gato screamed out in pain. How dare you! Gato's samurai began to draw their swords. But before they could even pull them out they found Haku standing between them holding their own swords a bare inch from their necks. You don't want to do that right now. He hissed. I am in a very bad mood. Gato gripped his throbbing and broken wrist. You'll pay for this, you little bastard. He was furious but was intelligent enough to understand he was not in a strong position at the moment. For one of the very few times in his life Gato decided retreat was in order. All right, you can have one more chance. But if you fail again don't come back. I understand. Haku returned the swords to their hapless owners. We will not fail you. His politeness only rubbed salt in Gato's wound. He and his samurai quickly departed. Haku returned to his seat by Zabuza's side. That was not necessary. Zabuza spoke in a strained voice. In his hand beneath the covers was a kunai. I could have dealt with him. I know Zabuza-sama. But had you done so we might have found ourselves on the run again from them. Zabuza sighed. True. Let us be patient for just a little while. Yes, Zabuza agreed. But only for a little while. Chapter 20. As they sat around talking a small boy walked in and hurried over to Tazuna. Are you okay, Grandpa? I was afraid I was never going to see you again. Tazuna smiled and gave the little boy a hug. I'm Fin Inari. He turned to where the ninja were watching them. Everyone, this is my grandson Inari. Inari, the fellow lying down, is Kakashi and that is Naruto, Kiba, and Hinata. He smiled at the boy. These brave ninja have protected me and they're going to help me finish the bridge and rid us of Gato. The boy looked past his grandfather at the strangers with real interest. You're here to fight Gato. The blonde one smiled at him and nodded. That's right. We've sworn to protect your grandfather from any bad men who might want to hurt him. In fact, I'd like to think we're being just a little heroic. Naruto thought of his father. The boy sent him a hurt look and suddenly seemed on the verge of tears. You're an idiot, the boy shouted. You're all gonna die. Don't you know there's no such thing as heroes? The boy immediately fled. Hey you twerp, Kiba shouted. Kiba, be nice, he's just a little boy. Hinata scolded. Inari, come back and apologize to our guests. Tsunami called after her son. Tazuna looked to his guests. I am very sorry about that, please forgive my grandson's rude behavior. There are reasons. Naruto shrugged. No problem. He stood up. Please excuse me. He wanted to find the boy and try to assure him that they had not come all this way to simply die. He went to the second floor and found a door with a small carving on it that said, Inari. He was about to knock when he heard sobs. Daddy. A broken cry came from the other side of the door. Naruto paused. He then slowly turned around and went back downstairs. XXXXXXXXXX. The next day Kiba and Hinata came to a halt on some tree branches a couple miles from the Tazuna home. Kiba had put a trickle of chakra into his nose which gave him 100 times better sense of smell. Anything? Hinata asked, just a little nervous. But Kiba shook his head. Nothing at all. So far the morning patrol looks like a cakewalk. I hope things stays quiet. Hinata said softly. Huh, not a chance. Kiba said eagerly. We'll definitely have to fight again sooner or later. And next time I'm sure we won't just be watching. You really want to fight? She asked. Kiba looked at her in surprise. Don't you? It was then that the radio communicator hissed to life. This is blonde boy to dog boy and pretty girl. What's your status? Kiba switched his communicator to send. We're wrapping up the morning patrol, we haven't found anything blonde boy. How are things at your end? The bridge is quiet. I've actually got 100 of my clones running around helping with construction. Kiba laughed. Are they all making minimum wage? Naruto's laughter came back over the comm link. No, I'll donate my labor. Say blonde boy, when we get back, thank your mom for getting us these radio communicators. I know they're not standard equipment and I know they're expensive. Yeah well, when it comes to protecting me, Kasen has never been one to scrimp. I should tell you how much custom-made body armor costs some time. Alright, if there is anything at all, contact me. Blonde boy out. Roger that, dog boy out. Kiba smiled at Hinata. Come on, let's finish up the patrol and get some lunch. Hinata followed quietly behind her teammate. The day passed quietly for both parts of Team 7. XXXXXXXXXX. The next morning before sunrise, Naruto left the Tazuna home. He hadn't worked the sword in a week and wanted to get in a couple hours of practice before breakfast. The only ones awake as he left were the clones who were guarding the house. They would inform everyone what he was doing and when he'd back. And of course he had his radio communicator on. XXXXXXXXXXX. Haku got his basket and quietly exited the building. Zabuza was sleeping soundly. He would go find the herbs he needed to brew up the medicinal tea. Zabuza hated the taste but always drank it. It was still pre-dawn, hopefully he could find what he needed and be back before Zabuza awoke. XXXXXXXXXXX. As Haku was busy gathering up the roots and grasses he needed, he spotted a white carnation. He smiled, and even though it was silly, he plucked it and put it in his hair. He knew it was childish but he liked it. As he stood up he heard someone grunting not too far away. It was almost dawn and the sky was light enough to see without any problem. Being a bit curious, and certainly not being afraid, he decided to investigate. He came upon a clearing and there was the blonde in the red and black bodysuit working with his sword. Haku simply stood still at the edge of the clearing and watched. As the blade slashed and jabbed through the air, Haku noticed the beautiful footwork and the grace of movement. He compared it to how his master trained. Zabuza's sword work was all straightforward slices and attacks. They were brutally effective but hardly what anyone would call graceful. But then again, given the massive size of his blade, many of the blonde's moves would have been impractical or even impossible. Haku is aware that the proper course of action would have been to quietly withdraw. Yet he was entranced by the beauty of what he saw. It was like watching a wonderful ballet or theater performance. One simply wanted to stand there and admire the artistry. After about 5 minutes the ninja finally came to a halt in the middle of the clearing. He seemed to be breathing heavily. His back was turned but Haku could notice the blonde had the sword resting on his shoulder. "Hello," Naruto called out. He slowly turned around so he could face the stranger standing there at the edge of the woods. "I was wondering if you would introduce yourself. Since you haven't allowed me to introduce myself." He gave a polite bow. "I am Naruto, a ninja from Konohagakure." "Oh, I apologize, but I did not want to disturb you." Haku took a couple steps forward into the clearing. He too bowed. "I am Haku and I am originally from a small village in water country." Naruto smiled. "Well, I hope you won't take this the wrong way, Haku, but except for my mom and my girlfriend, you're the prettiest girl I've ever seen." Haku smiled. "Well, thank you, but I think you should know I'm a boy." "What?" Haku tilted his head and grinned. "Do you require proof?" "No." Naruto began to blush. "No way. He's like miles prettier than Ino." Haku had a good laugh. "I do apologize for disturbing you. To be quite honest, I thought your training was simply beautiful and wanted to watch. It almost reminded me of ballet." Naruto smiled and tried to get over his embarrassment. "Well, thank you. The forms are actually called dances. There are 5 of them. The one I was just doing was called the Dance of the Lilies." I had never heard of that. It was true, Zabuza had never mentioned such a fact. "You are obviously very skilled with your blade. Tell me, why are you out here all alone so early in the morning?" "Well, to keep my skill sharp and to keep improving. I'm pretty good now, but I'm no blade master like my mom." "Really? How far along are you?" "Well, there are 5 levels of skill to the blade. I am only at the 2nd, so I still have a ways to go." Haku gave him a curious look. "Tell me, why do you work so hard?" "What do you mean? I was just wondering. You mentioned your mother and your girlfriend. Do you work so hard for their sakes and the sakes of others who are precious to you? Or do you do so for your own satisfaction?" Naruto smiled one of his big smiles. "Everything I do is for the people that I love. For my mother, my girlfriend, my older brother, my godmother, my aunt, my granddad, my friends, and for every single person in my village. They are all precious to me. My dream is to be Hokage one day. That is what we call our supreme leader. I want to be Hokage so that I can always watch over and protect everyone." Haku couldn't help but compare that to Zabuza's dream. He also wanted to rule his homeland, but not so he could help others. He lusted for power the way some men lusted for young flesh or the way Gato lusted for money. I can understand that, working so hard for those who are precious to you. Haku sent him a look tinged with real jealousy. You are truly fortunate, Naruto, to have so many precious people in your life. For me there is only one person, but he is more precious to me than anything. I would do anything for his sake. You know, I truly believe that when people are protecting something precious to them, they truly can become as strong as they need to be. Naruto nodded. That is very true. Haku nodded. Well, if you will excuse me, I really must be going home now. He paused. It was a real pleasure to meet you, Naruto. Please do not find this rude, but I sincerely hope we do not meet again. He turned to go. Though I fear we will. As Haku began to leave, Naruto spoke in a casual tone. You know, Haku, I've managed to develop some very keen senses. Haku halted and looked back over his shoulder. Really? Naruto nodded. His sword was still in hand, resting against his shoulder. Yes, for instance, I can tell that even though you are not molding chakra at the moment, that you have the ability to do so. More to the point, I recognize your chakra signature as that of the ninja I fought 2 days ago. Haku slowly turned about to face him. Naruto simply stood where he was, calmly eyeing him. I see. Haku tilted his head and eyes him curiously. Are you going to attack me? No. Why not? I am currently unarmed. Were you to attack me, you would have an excellent chance of killing me. Naruto shook his head. I don't kill unless I have to. Were this battle or had my mission goal been to kill you, I would have done so. But at this moment we are not in a battle and my mission is to protect Tsunade, not kill anyone. You said before that we were not enemies. Well, I agree with you. Other ninjas would not feel that way. Haku said quietly. Like Zabuza. Haku nodded. He would not pass up the opportunity to remove an obstacle to his goal. Well, fortunately I have different role models, my mom and my older brother and my dad. I'll do what I have to, but I don't fight or kill needlessly. He sighed. You know, if you and Zabuza left, it would be over. Haku shook his head. I am afraid that is quite impossible. For Zabuza-sama, failing or declining this mission is not an option. Why? Because the reward will help him to achieve his dream. Naruto shook his head. Even though it seems we are bound to face one another again, I still won't attack you unless you attack me first. With that, he put his sword back into its scabbard. As it had been drawn for training rather than battle, there was no need for blood. You are very honorable, Naruto. Haku looked very sad. If things were different, I would very much like to call you friend. Naruto looked at the boy consideringly. You're obviously very honorable as well. Why do you show Zabuza such loyalty? I read about him in the bingo book. I know he butchered an entire class of students at his academy. I know he tried to overthrow his government and became a missing nin. He's a cold-hearted mercenary. How does someone like that get such loyalty? Do not speak of Zabuza-sama that way. Haku said. He is my one and only precious person. And suddenly Haku wanted, no needed for Naruto to understand. Once I was precious. For I belonged to my parents. I was born in a snowy little village in the land of water. I was happy, my parents were good, kind people. But just as I was getting old enough to really notice the world around me, something happened. What? Naruto asked, feeling entranced. Blood, my blood. Haku spoke sadly. What are you talking about? My father killed my mother and tried to kill me. Haku said matter-of-factly. Naruto gasped and simply stared at the other boy. Why? Naruto choked out. The land had seen generations of non-stop warfare. Among its people, those who possess kekkei genkai, skills that come out of our genetic inheritance, are loathed abominations. Haku continued in a calm tone. The kekkei genkai refers to clans whose bloodlines give them powers like mine. Inherited skills that were exploited and twisted, used to cause horrible slaughter. Until we ceased to be looked on as warriors or even weapons, but were condemned as the harbingers of doom. After the wars were over, we who possessed this trait were hunted. Only able to survive by hiding the existence of our skill and our bloodline away. Exposure meant certain death. We are special, we are powerful, and we are feared. My father learned that my mother came from such a clan, and before I even realized what I was about to do, I killed him. Haku paused for a good bit. Naruto thought he had revealed all that he had meant to. But in a weary voice the boy continued. And then I knew what I was. It was the most painful thing, and I was forced to accept it. What? Naruto couldn't help but feel the boy's pain. That I was alone in the world, superfluous, unwanted, shunned. I was all alone, and I knew that if I died no one would care or even notice. Haku paused again and tears fell from his eyes. That was when Zabuza-sama found me. He adopted me, even knowing of my Kekkei Genkei. The very thing that others hated me for he not only accepted but cherished and wanted. Haku smiled as his tears fell. I was so happy. I was needed. I was wanted. I had someone precious to me and I would give everything for him. I'm sure you don't understand my pain, Naruto. What it's like to be all alone and hated for something you were born with. But that is what I endured and that is the hell that Zabuza-sama rescued me from. And that is why I would die for him. And do so gladly so long as it helped him. Naruto slowly nodded. It's true that I don't know what it's like to be all alone. For a long time the people who cared for me were few, but I was always loved and always wanted. But Haku, I know what it is to be hated because you were born with a terrible power inside. You have a Kekkei Genkei. No, sealed within my body is the Kyuubi no Kitsune, the nine-tailed demon fox spirit. Haku stared at him. My father was the Hokage of Konoha and when Kyuubi attacked he knew the only way to save the village was to trap the Kyuubi within a newborn human child. And that is what my father did. He sacrificed his own life to transfer the demon fox into his newborn son, me. My father saved the village and he is beloved, his memory honored. But from the day of my birth there have been people in my village who would have gladly murdered me. I survived only because my mother and a few others risked their lives to protect me. Even now when I walk through the village some people look at me with hatred and revulsion. He shook his head. I don't know what it's like to be alone, Haku, but I do know what it's like to be hated for something you had no choice in. He looked at him. By the way, everything I just told you is known to my sensei but not to my two teammates. I ask you to please keep my secret as I will keep what you have told me in confidence. If it was a secret, why did you tell me? Haku asked. Because I wanted you to know that I understood, at least a little bit. Haku slowly nodded. He reached up and took the flower that he had in his hair. I would like to give you this. He approached Naruto. Naruto eyed him but did not move. You want to give me a flower? He grinned a bit. I did tell you I have a girlfriend, didn't I? I don't like you in that way. Haku grinned as well. You are quite safe, Naruto. I promise I will not try to steal you away from your girlfriend. He stood before him and held out the flower. This is a white carnation, they are supposed to be good luck. Naruto looked at him seriously. Considering what is likely coming, are you sure you want to wish me good luck? Haku nodded. I do, please accept it. Naruto reached out and took the flower. Thank you. He placed it in one of his pouches. Haku sighed. I have no friends in this world. Other than Zabuza-sama I have no one. I wish we could have been friends. Naruto held out his right hand. Shake my hand, Haku, and we are friends. Haku looked at his in surprise. How can you say that when you know we will have to fight each other? Because Haku, that is how the world is. Sometimes friends must fight each other, not out of hate, but simply because the causes and people they follow lead to conflict. But even if the sides we are on force us to combat one another, I would like us to be friends as well. Slowly Haku lifted his hand and placed it in Naruto's outstretched palm. Thank you, my friend. XXXXXXXXXX. Naruto watched Haku leave. He wondered what the future held and hoped there was some way he could avoid having to kill someone he considered a friend. His radio communicator sparked to life. Naruto-kun. He hit the send button. Yes, Hinata-chan. Are you almost done with practice? Breakfast will be ready soon. I'm heading back right now. I'll see you in a bit. It was to me to get back to his team and mission. XXXXXXXXXXX. Zabuza noted when Haku returned with his basket of sharp-smelling herbs. You're back a bit later than usual. Anything happen? Haku smiled. Nothing at all, Zabuza-sama. XXXXXXXXXXX. Uchiha Damas looked about the inn. This is the place we were supposed to meet the client, isn't it? Madro nodded. It's the only inn of the White Horse in this village. Damas looked about suspicious at how empty the place was. Have you got a bad feeling about this? I mean all the way to Rice Country for AC rank, and at the price. And who pays up front when they don't have to? Madro smiled. Oh come on, the price and the upfront payment were because the client insisted that the team include in. Uchiha with the Sharingan. Let's face it, you're in high demand. Damas shook his head. Something does not feel right. As he spoke, a tall thin man entered the inn's common room. Well, hello. Are you the two Chunins who have come to fulfill my request? Both of them rose to their feet. We are, and you are our client? Madara asked. The man smiled broadly. I am indeed. Now which of you is the Uchiha? Damas frowned. I am, and that tone is not appreciated. The man laughed. My apologies. And suddenly Damas was screaming. He felt dozens of kunai slam into his body. He dropped to his knees shaking. Looking over, he saw Madara's in the same shape. Genjutsu, he choked out. Yes. The client took out a kunai and walked over to them. He smoothly and neatly sliced open Madara's throat. Damas could only watch as his friend and partner spilled to the floor dead. Why? Who are you? The tall thin man laughed. I am Orochimaru, the ninja of legend. Orochimaru. It was a struggle just to talk, never mind fight or run. What do you want? Your body. Damas suddenly saw a gigantic snake appear before his eyes. Just before he began screaming as his soul was torn away. Thank you for watching. Please remember, make sure to like and subscribe, and if you have fanfictions you would like to see on the channel, leave them in the comments, and have a great day.